SWAT box, what are you doing here? This is a combat zone. It's restricted. Ease off on your main thruster and head over to patreon.com/SWOCBC for episodes of our all-new series, Inside the Insider, where the gang explores articles from every single issue of the official Star Wars Insider fan magazine in order and get an even closer look at how Star Wars and its fandom have evolved over the years. New episodes with each public upload months earlier for patrons. Red 24, Red 30, follow me to patreon.com/SWOCBC for the latest episode of SWAT Box, Inside the Insider today. In target range, it's ahead. All ships jump to light speed.
What's up, my rebellious raiders? Welcome back to the SWAT box.
Rebellious. That's like your Rico's Roughnecks or whatever.
Yeah, Sergeant Rico's Roughnecks. Welcome back to our show, which this week is going to be called Gasgano's
Camtana. It was almost there.
Gasgano's Podcast. Gasgano's Pod.
Is Gasgano one of the pod racers?
Yeah, he's the four-armed one.
Do you think they have a podcast where it's like, tune in for the podcast? We're talking about all the pod racers.
Oh, little
we have them on.
Skywalker is stalled.
Dude,
I heard on the street that little Skywalker is stalled. Shout out Greg Proops, wherever you're at.
I hold in my hand an N64 EverDrive that Alex picked up for me. I'll tell you what is going to go on this. Well, everything.
Davis is not on a lot of podcasts.
I'm so hype for. I love the pod racing N64 game.
Oh my god, dude! You want to know something crazy? You want me to tell you like a real thing that blew my mind? And I'm not. I don't want to like shatter your dream right now. I'm gonna a little, but like just a little. It's great on the N64. Plays amazing. Looks great. It's a triumph. The sense of speed that you get. Unrivaled. The graphics, some of the best on the console.
You know what's also kind of cool?
Yeah.
The N64 controller kind of looks like a pod racer.
That's true.
You know what else is kind of cool?
Yeah.
Whose line is it anyway?
Yeah. And let me tell you something. There's a great little place where the Venn diagram of those two things crosses right over.
At the Boonta Eve.
At the Boonta Eve Classic. And let me tell you something else. Here's what I was going to shatter your brain with. On PC, that game has like cutscenes. And it's even more beautiful. And the port that Aspire did to everything is like based off that and is like incredible.
Did it come out on the PC at the same time?
Yeah.
And it just has cutscenes?
Like so did
I think. Because it fucking, this is not a CD and they just didn't get the cool cutscenes that everybody else got?
Yeah, but there's a lot of other technology in there that's really valuable and we're glad
like a rumble pack?
No.
Actually, I say that, but I love, that's like my little treat for when I'm not playing on a PC is like getting a little rumble.
PlayStation already had that. I mean, like
that should be the subtitle for today's podcast. Get a little rumble.
Get a little rumble on Gasgano's pod.
Dave's little treat to himself is a little DualShock, or no, what's it called?
Yeah,
DualSense.
DualSense 5,
dude. Ooh,
little sensual controller talk on Gasgano's pod chat. This is the Q&A show that we do every once in a while. Heads up, just in case you don't know this, you can become a free member of our Patreon at patreon.com/SWOCBC. And on that website, Davis, the webmaster, as we call him, the webmaster of the Sith, as we call him, webmaster of the Force.
I call him the Dark Master of the Web.
Yeah,
dude, that's cool. 17-year-old me would be like, actually, no, I was Darth Balls. That was my. It's from Jan.
I was Darth Balls.
If you don't know, I was Darth. That was my gamer tag for so long.
When was the last time you wrote out as Darth Balls?
And it was 4 for the A. And
oh, seriously?
Yeah.
So okay, that's fine.
But honestly, when was the last time you used that?
When did you write out as Darth Balls last?
I hope over COVID.
When was Darth Balls last ride?
I switched. It was for Xbox Live was the first time I didn't use that. And I was Diabletes. I love Leaf Speak because I'm an old gamer. And so it was like A beat 337, like it was whatever.
Like lead diabetes.
Not one person. It's Xbox Live, so nobody used it, but everybody called me like Diablo, or like they just like nobody ever even got it. So then I just changed it to diabetes. I lost the lead part. Nobody still got it. Eventually, I just became Team Davis, and
people were probably seeing it, and their eyes were sending signals to their brain, and their brains were like, surely no one would name themselves after diabetes on the internet, and so they go.
I thought it was a combo of two things identified as.
I don't see any problem with it.
And diabetic.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's
diabetes.
hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's type 1. It's the real kind.
I feel like hanging out with Davis. I feel like he does kind of have a little bit of like.
I'm the Sebulba
Diabetes.
of diabetes.
Diabetism.
Yeah.
Sebulba always wins the diabetes race.
You don't think he like every now and then for PR does a little like
he has to
charity race?
He can't just start eating right and then lose the race. He has to win the diabetes race. Okay, this is a show where you go on that Patreon. And Davis, the webmaster, puts up Q&A every month or so. You guys can go there, ask your questions. This time we got the name thing sorted out. You can ask us anything you want as long as you keep it true to the spirit, is I think what I said last time.
You could technically ask us anything you want, but I'm just not going to read it.
Yeah, like don't be a weirdo. Just keep it in the spirit, and then we
or
also
be a weirdo, but keep it attached.
Yeah,
like
keep it attached.
The Chewbacca machine has opened it up. I feel like
I'm just saying, don't be like Jesse. Question for Jesse only. Do you remember that time that we met in 2017
hold on.
and I was mean to you?
But if you just want to write Jesse Cox as a response, you have my permission.
That's fine.
Go nuts.
You're not going to be the first person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please.
Just so you know, you can't corner the market. It's already cornered, but you could try to carve out a slice of it.
You could make it like a thing.
Some guy out there is like, huh. But yeah, the other thing that we can do is for the patrons who are on the paid levels, they have also discussion questions about the episodes. And so this time we have a couple responses from the episode about the Empire Strikes Back movie, where the discussion question was about specifically that movie and the watch along. So we'll get to that in the middle. All that's at patreon.com/SWOCBC, the official Patreon of the Swak Box. And here's Davis with some questions.
Yeah. We got from Jake48 question. We hear a lot about what y'all are looking forward to covering on the pod. Are there any parts of the old EU that you're not? I would assume that the in-between for episode 2 and 3 would be a no man's land, but I recently read a comic from that era and it owned bones.
Hell yeah.
That's cool.
It owned bones, dude.
Had a whole storyline where a group of Jedi withdrew from the Order since the war was antithetical to the Jedi Code, which is like a tight concept. Good stuff. Can't wait for it to be covered. Thank you all for my favorite podcast ever.
Yo,
hell yeah.
Thank you.
Here's the thing. No, because just putting on the lens of like discovering it, there may be parts that when we're in it are like, oh boy, another one of these. But there's no part that I'm not looking forward to because even the bad stuff is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'm afraid of, genuinely, is like
loving it too much.
No, like capitalism. I've read up to a point in the Star Wars universe.
It won.
Well, look, like
Reagan really
look,
just
don't
like
worry about
locked that in.
Don't worry about that. All I'm saying is like at some point, I stopped reading the like old canon just because I don't know. I just like there was no more movies. I kind of fell away from it or whatever. Or this prequels kind of
like with the Dark Plagueis books when that was out. That kind of area?
Like that era there. I just kind of like wasn't around the Star Wars.
Darth Plagueis was like. Wasn't that one of the later ones?
That was the last one before it was all canceled, the whole EU.
And maybe like the 5 to 8 years before that. I didn't really check in that much.
Sure.
Right? Like around that time it lost me. I don't know anything about that stuff. I have no idea if it all like started to go towards that like everything is about one thing shape that it is in now. I don't know what the vibe is there. I'm just afraid of that. But I'm excited to read everything. Like I know about that like Death Troopers book that's out there that I've never read. And I do want to read that Darth Plagueis book so badly. And I know there's some like really, really old Jedi stuff that's out there that's like some of the later comic books that I haven't read that they look cool. I'm just afraid that like editorial edicts are going to like raise their ugly heads more and more as we go on. And then the other thing is I really loved the new Jedi Order. I've talked about it before. I'm scared that it's going to like totally
I did not like the Jedi Order.
I'm just scared that I'm going to like read it and it's going to like totally destroy my childhood and it's going to suck because
I'm the same with the comics. When it comes to the comics that are like the old school 12 billion years ago Jedi comics where the Jedi have like backpack lightsabers.
Exarchon,
Those were
Nomi
so cool.
Sunrider.
I love those. I'm terrified going back now and be like, this actually kind of sucked. And I don't know. That's my biggest worry.
I'm gonna spoil it for you now. Those fucking
okay, good. Like, but my biggest concern is we're gonna come across a book that I remember loving as a kid. And it's going to be like, oh, no, this wasn't good. I was just really into Star Wars.
Yeah. I don't want to lose my darlings, but I also like, I really want to. Like, I want to know everything. I want to play all the games again, too.
I want the new Jedi Order to be good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it'll like depend on your perspective. Because like, I went back and played Mega Man Battle Network, the first one. And it's not like a stellar, it's like a really cool concept. But I'm like, I remember why I loved it. And it reminded me of like that era when the internet and tech and we didn't even have the term smart tech, but I was like, oh, I totally like get why I liked it. And even if the story itself didn't appeal to me in the same way as an adult, I'm hoping that like, even if there were things that I loved as a kid and the same for you, that if they're not as good as you remember, they will at least like time travel your soul back to it.
Yeah. There was one trilogy. It's a Lando trilogy. I don't remember where it's from. I think it's like mid-90s.
Lando's not a trilogy. It's a person.
Lando's a spectrum, baby.
But I hated it as a kid. It sucked. And I wonder if now I'll love it.
It's probably like just some adult, like non-action shit.
Because it literally is Lando just being Lando. But as a kid, I was like, there's no ship fighting and there's no lightsabers.
Where's the Imperial Navy, bro? What the hell?
So now I'm like, maybe it'll be awesome. So those are the things I'm looking forward to, if that flips the question a little bit.
Yeah, I'm afraid to play the old flight sims too that I loved. Like the really rudimentary ones like TIE Fighter and X-Wing.
There's no way we're going to get through TIE Fighter without being upset with the game.
TIE Fighter is so good.
Imagine being an actual TIE Fighter pilot where you're like, cool, no shields.
I mean, the biggest problem is the TIE Fighter game. I downloaded again from GOG to play. Cause like, hell yeah, X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter, this is amazing. It uses all but 6 of your keyboard keys.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the most unintuitive. Everything can be changed and messed with, but it's so much that I was like, no.
Maybe if we crew it like a battleship, we'll be all right.
Maybe
we could sail on through.
That would be kind of sick. Like when I was younger, my friend that was like in my neighborhood that I'd like walk to his house all the time had it. And I had more fun watching him be good at it than me be bad at it. So
I remember how fucking sick it was, but yeah, like, I don't know. There's rarely stuff that I go back and I'm like, this actually sucks, unless it's like the message sucks or something like that.
Actually, the like NES games, those suck.
Bro, we'll get there.
Not suck, maybe that's the wrong,
they're not arousing
the
success.
time is coming. We're going to have to play those.
We're getting real close.
They're just like games where there's a lot of NES games where I'm like, this is like mean and not fun. Mm-hmm. And I
still think I'm going to be like, because here's the thing about all of this is that's like separate from like modern Star Wars fandom and trying to cover that as it's emerging on a news cycle is that like everything is so old that there's no like need for like emotional rage, and we can just kind of like exhume the past with an archaeologist's eye, and you just kind of like get to be interested in like where Star Wars was at. And I'm not going to be like, I can't believe they did this, because it's like trying to like cry about something that happened in another timeline.
You say that, but those little shitty Jawas are going to blast us. I'm going to be so upset with the entire game.
That's how like the prequels, I'm going to get angry. I'm going to elevate my voice and you'll sense
I'm going to have a great time.
But I am curious to, as an adult, hit it again. And then like, since we're also covering Inside the Insider and other stuff, seeing it now as like, let's track the hubris.
Let's just be generous.
See, like, what happened.
Let's just be as generous to George as possible and see what his idea was and see what happened.
I think it's going to be a big shift as it gets close, because we were talking about like how much merch they made. Like as the expanded universe books like that gets blown out because of Thrawn, and then when it flips a switch to like, here's all the new shit, what that's going to look like.
I know.
And it's going to be
Like that 90s push before the movie that like lasted like 7 years. I'm so excited.
That was the best time.
It was like it was truly in like we have a pretty significant age difference even like where when we were young, we were like very different ages at that time. And it was like the most glorious time in my life as like a fiction consumer. And I read comic books like every day of my life. And I still like look fondly on those 90s.
They had my name down at the library whenever a new Star Wars book came in the 90s. They were
I'd smash those.
Here you go, Jesse. I'm like, yeah.
I'd read like one a day.
Yeah, they're great.
I'd read like
I'm
literally
a Star Warrior. Sure you are, kid.
I didn't even know. That's what I'm saying. I didn't even know about the Star Warrior stuff. All I did, because I was born after like the movies exist.
You just walk up to an adult and say Star Wars, give it to me.
I don't remember who I was talking. I was talking with someone about this the other day where we were talking about Star Wars and how neither of us were born at the impetus of Star Wars. We're like, well, how the hell did we, like, when did this happen? When was the train we jumped on that suddenly we're in it?
Why do we love this like 10-year-old movie?
I was like, clearly I must have watched it on VHS for the first time, but like, why did that get me? Yeah. And I have no answers for you. It just became a thing as a kid I was obsessed with.
I think it's just good.
It like hits the fundamentals. I mean, now I guess like because you have screens from a young age, what stimulates your brain now is different, but like they are timeless story beats that even if there is some old timiness to the acting or whatever, but when you're young, you don't really know what's like good acting or bad act. Like it just, you just take it and you're like, this is it.
And another thing I think that's like special about even the prequels a little bit, there's a quality to them that is so unlike the big budget stuff that we get today, especially Star Wars stuff, because take it or leave it, like George Lucas, the original Star Wars was like not even that good of an idea. The movie was like kind of dumb. And then it got kind of like fixed in the edit and like kind of like saved at several points by people with more skill.
What do you mean? They didn't want to use Wormy?
Well, dude, that was supposed to be like American Graffiti type shit. And it was supposed to be like a really long scene and like give this vibe. And then he, that was supposed to be part of it. It was supposed to be like this weird, because, all his interests.
The world wasn't ready for it.
I'm still not ready for it. The last time they brought teenagers on motorcycles to Tatooine, I hated it
so badly.
But George was literally just trying something every time. Like, dude was like, he had his idea. He had like a trilogy in mind that he wanted to make right now. Tried his best on the first one, got like the right people in the right spot to do it. Then he like had this baby and like brought in all the right people for like 2 movies to make the exact movies that the world needed to be the follow-ups to Star Wars. One of them was like the best movie ever made, arguably in like the fantasy genre, at least, maybe. Right. Then we go 15 years into the future or whatever, when he starts development on these new movies. Now he's richer than God. Now he's the head of this empire that means so much more to so many more people than he ever would have ever imagined. And the bravery that it takes for somebody like George Lucas in that position to be like, I'm going to make them myself and I'm going to do what I want to do because I have some cool ideas that I want to try out, is like unbelievable, unthinkable today, except for I
just think that it's hubris. Like I don't think he's brave.
Hubris in what sense? Like it's just art. Like it's just his fucking move. Like it's just a movie. It's just like a dumb story for children. Like it's nothing. Like there's no stakes really. It's just that people care about it. And in his mind,
like him just being able to do whatever and pretending like he is the only guy that really made Star Wars and like rewriting history is not brave.
But that's not even, when he had like nothing. But that's not even his attitude, really. His attitude is that like in his mind, and this is, I don't want to like put anybody on blast, but I was literally chatting with somebody at the SoCal game convention.
Blast him.
I don't want to like get him too much in trouble, but he had a chance to like chat with George Lucas for an extended amount of time because of his job.
Harrison Ford?
No. Mark Hamill. But Dave Filoni. No, Jon Favreau. No, just kidding. It's none of those people. It was just a guy who was moving some of George Lucas's shit around. But he was talking to George Lucas, and the impression that he gave me, because this guy was quite eloquent who was talking to me, the impression that he gave me is that in the years where there was no Star Wars, the greatest time in Star Wars, according to me and Jesse, and maybe you too, I don't know.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Aside from the original trilogy,
just the greatest time to be a Star Wars fan in terms of like, there was new shit coming out all the time and it was awesome.
Also, like, it fulfilled the promise of Star Wars. Like, yes, there's some stuff that we're going to get to that are not super tight, but like they did like create a bunch of books that are even better because with books you can go harder and further and like all this stuff.
According to this guy, where George Lucas's mind is at this point, kind of the place that you would expect it to be, honestly, after what he did to have his success with the second and third movie of his franchise, which is that he was kind of like, wow, Star Wars has really become just like this sort of larger thing that's like beyond me. And it's like a setting and it's like this place for other people to do things. And, my Star Wars is not the Star Wars, is not anybody else's Star Wars. And so in his mind, the reason he's trying shit is because there's Star Wars out there for everybody. And so in his mind, he's like, I just want to make my cool Star Wars because I made it. And it's like cool. And like, this is my thing. And like, some people are going to like it and some people aren't. The fact that he spent that much money on something like that, to me, as much as like when I was younger, I was mad at him because like I wanted there to be a really good Star Wars movie that came out in theaters when I was a kid that was like mine, that was not just me going and watching the same movie my dad watched. And I thought it was going to, when I went and saw Phantom Menace, I thought I was going to be seeing like my favorite movie that I was ever going to have for like the rest of my life. It's a lot of expectations, right? Like, and honestly, I kind of loved it when I walked out because I was in like 6th grade. I wasn't like, this sucks. I was like, I think this movie is not good. Like, I was like, I think this is not a good film.
That movie was also kind of a trick because the last 20 minutes were awesome compared to the rest of it. But when you watch it again, you're like,
dude, but watching it now, I don't even get mad.
One of my good friends, isn't in the industry, had that like revelation when we hung out recently. He's like, Rogue One, I watched it recently and I actually don't think it's a good movie, but I think the end is so tight, especially the Vader thing, that you leave on like a high. And
such a high note.
And it's not, and same thing with Phantom Menace. Neither of them is like shit.
No, they're not bad.
Yeah, they're not like shit.
But the ending is so much better than everything else that you saw. You're just like, that was amazing because they got you.
Yeah. I'm curious to, I guess, see it again. I don't watch the prequels that much anymore, or even ever. But people loved the third, like thought that Revenge of the Sith was the best one. I actually like think that Phantom Menace is the best one.
So much more recognizable.
And if you just cut out like the Gungans and some stuff, there's some actually like interesting.
Let's let the wacky, use what you've learned from Han Solo and The Lost Legacy and all those books and all the stupid bullshit that's in there, and just walk into episode 1, The Phantom Menace, as if it's just another supermarket Star Wars book. And I think it's like, compared to episode 2 and 3, quite a real movie compared to those two.
This, all I'm going to say about this.
The thing that makes me like that, I think Phantom Menace does, is we just see him already 10 years later, him being like, well, it's a kid's story for kids, where you're like, all right, you're insecure and you feel like you made like a popular movie that wasn't smart. So now you have to pretend like you made it for kids.
Or maybe you just made the call.
No, but Phantom Menace, like the other movies have some humor, but there's not like dumb silliness like there is in Phantom Menace, where like the child is the like lead that's weird. The like Jar Jar Binks does like stuff where you're like, this is just not.
I'm telling you what's going to happen.
No,
I think this show, Davis, is going to be the best thing in the world for you, because just like when we watched the holiday special, and everyone has told us for years it's terrible.
Yeah.
And we were like, yo, that was, except for the last bit, that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that because we come from a place of like, who the fuck cares, that you might walk out of episode 1, 2, and 3 again. Like, all right, it's not my favorite, but that was fun. I can believe it, because you haven't seen it in a while.
It's like, I mean, I think it's like playing a bad co-op game with your friends can still be fun. But like the movie, I've seen them more times than I should have seen a movie that I loathe.
Right.
And I don't think I'm going to come away with, I think that we might learn some things that might be like, oh, this was more interesting. And definitely I haven't watched them, I don't think, or maybe I have once since the sequel trilogy, but then being able to compare and contrast where you're like, all right, well, good acting, good effects, but like a story that shifts focus across the trilogy and doesn't have a direction, versus things with none of the good things, but like sort of a cohesive trajectory. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it more like when we actually watch it, but like, I feel like this type of stuff is like a rare commodity nowadays, and that the context is going to change for us. Like, it's going to feel a lot different watching episode 1 after reading literally every piece of Star Wars media, because I feel like in my mind right now, like I think I read a shitload of Star Wars books when I was a kid. But I think like it's the same way that you think you played a shitload of video games when you were a kid, and then you look back and you're like, I had a copy of Super Mario Brothers, a copy of Super Mario Kart,
Hudson Hawk,
a nickel, and a piece of gum, and a paperclip, and a Final Fantasy VI. Like I didn't play anything. I don't know shit. I think we're gonna have like a fucking weird ass time.
Even I think you're right, because also like the comics have unlocked a lot of like, I'm not saying that I like it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that like there technically is a parallel in the new stuff. Like you're like this, that is Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, separating Star Wars from what my Star Wars is to what the company that makes Star Wars puts out.
Yeah.
It all is Star Wars. I think there'll be more interesting takes from it.
It's going to be weird. Yeah. I think we're going to have a lot more context for a lot of it. And I think that there's probably a lot of apocrypha out there that I don't know currently. Like we learned a lot about the original movie in just reading it and reading about it, and the Star Wars Insider is going to be interesting.
Sure.
We're going to be experts on Star Wars pretty soon.
Well, and the fun thing is like and even at the time by episode 2, I was like, I hate these prequels. I actually loved the video games from that era.
Oh,
Jedi
man.
Starfighter
Bounty Hunter
was so cool. Pod Racer, Bounty Hunter, fucking what's the clone trooper one?
Oh, dude, Republic
Commando. Like
the second pod racing one too was awesome. Racer Revenge.
I didn't even know about that till you showed me, and it was like a whole other universe.
Yeah,
where you're like, oh wow, this is cool. So that stuff is like sick.
I always tell people,
excited for that.
I always tell people, look for the 7. If you are playing something or you're watching something or you're reading something and you're thinking this is a 10 out of 10, in your mind, try and make it a 7. Try and like figure out why it's actually a 7. When you're playing something that's a 5 or below, and you're like, this is trash, this is shit, give it your hand and try and fling it up to a 7. Try and figure out what it is that makes it decent, and then you will enjoy your life more. That's just my advice to you guys. Yeah.
Cool. That was the first question.
Anything else we want to say about what we're afraid to watch?
No, I feel like that's it.
On Gasgano's Pod Chat.
Hello there. Oh, no. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, no. Count Dooku has engineered your demise in a shuttle accident, incurring life-changing injuries. Do you A, get yourself rebuilt as a crazy Star Wars cyborg? B, upload your mind into a dreadnought or droid and play the waiting game? Or C, engineer an elaborate plan to live forever by cloning yourself and transferring your consciousness between clones? I give my consent. Signed, Cody Soon-Child? I probably messed up the pronunciation, but that's a great question, Cody. Jesse, you're doing your like hands together. You're about to do a TED Talk, something.
How much are we just a dude? What is our relationship to him?
Count Dooku has engineered your demise in a shuttle accident.
Right, but
He must have had a reason.
You make it up.
okay.
He must have had a reason.
In this scenario, I am Jedi Jesse, Jedi.
That is
Jedi Cox.
Master Jedi Cox.
That actually just does sound like
You mixed the word,
Jedi.
mixed his first name and just the word Jedi. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. I would.
Han Solo is the coolest dude, all right? Back off.
I would.
Like to travel alone, do you?
Using all I know, I'd jump out into space because he couldn't get me.
Yeah.
And then I would have one of those oxygen masks they wear in Empire.
That's like really personal force field magic.
Just,
Yep.
I mean, it's just an oxygen mask, but I'm a Jedi.
Yeah.
And then I'd, through the Force, signal to my comrades.
I'm out here.
Fasciani. Davisadai.
Oh, we're just
Dave
all
1S.
Dav.
And then
the 4 is an A. Yeah.
You'd fly in.
No, he's not a droid. He's just a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
You'd fly in and you'd save me. And that's how I'd live.
I love
So-
that.
I wouldn't have to do any of that.
So we're
So
good
you
guys.
didn't answer the question.
We're good guys, and we saved you. And
Yeah.
all three of the options, you just use the force.
You
Right.
kirked that. You're like,
you told me I could make this scenario whatever I
I just
wanted.
meant like, that's all the information. So
you won the Kobayashi Maru.
So hold on. It's either you become a droid, you upload yourself, or you make clones.
You become a cyborg. You upload your
Like
mind.
Vader's a cyborg.
Right.
You can go to a dreadnought, or you can be like some kind of like Sith.
Oh no, I'm Sith cloning. Are you kidding?
That's what I was going to
Those
say.
are my options. I'm Sith cloning.
I was going to say Jesse's a C, like no doubt.
Yeah, no, I'm Sith cloning.
I think, okay. I guess because Count Dooku had to engineer your demise, we can revert, like what you're saying, that you have power. So like,
Right.
you could be that. I guess if like I'm a Force user, that would probably be the way I go. But I think maybe just recency bias. Valance is so like sick that I would love to have like a Mega Man arm cannon. Like I'd love to fight and die.
You're
against
Borging
Vader somewhere. I think I like Borging is cool. And I already am a bit of a cyborg as a diabetic because
That's true.
I have a robotic.
He's got a very
pancreas.
nice pump. Yeah.
The way you said that with such earnest, Borging is cool.
Yeah, I feel like a 90s.
You need to be like, we need to call security.
Morphin is out, Borgin is in.
The Star Wars security needs to come get you out of here. Take you back to Star Trek land. Borging is cool.
No, but those ones are like lame because they have no personality.
That's true.
I would be a cyborg that just doesn't hate himself. And imagine what you could do with that.
You want to know the real? Just said I answer. My answer.
Oh boy, yeah.
I'll just die.
Be a ship?
He'll just die.
I'll just die.
Return to the
Yeah,
Force.
I'll just return to the Force.
You'd be more powerful than all of us.
You show up as a ghost.
I'll teach your son a lesson and he'll kill you.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'm playing the long game.
Yeah.
That's okay. That wasn't one of the answers, but it wasn't even a competition. But I won by answering how
cool.
Right? No, you won.
We got a ghost.
I'm just saying this is an SAT question. You guys did your answers. You'd be like,
That's why I got into art. That's how I got into art school. You know what I mean?
by failing.
I
the
just
SATs?
loogied on the application.
Creative writing.
Just loogied on the application. Turn that shit in. Thought that shit was genius.
Sick. All right. That was a great question. Hello, Thomas here. I was wondering about upcoming slate of episodes considering the notable exclusion of the 1981 NPR produced radio drama adaptation of A New Hope written by Brian Daley. Is this something that's going to be passed over on the grounds of already covering A New Hope enough, or am I jumping the gun in terms of chronology? Love the show regardless. Looking forward to the newspaper strip episode.
There are some pieces of media that, due to their availability for like everyone, we're like skipping in our official order. But this is,
do they keep? I guess you just said they're like, is stuff like NPR? How do they catalog?
Dude, it's
I have it on a vinyl. Is how I have it. But
you have it on a vinyl?
Yeah.
Damn, you're cool.
I have it on a vinyl. But the thing about those is like I said, they're not easy to get. You can't just like buy one on eBay for $5 necessarily.
NPR doesn't have a copy of that.
I'm sure that there's some illegal way to get it or something like that. But this is a Patreon funded show. I haven't forgot about you. I know what kind of like niggling completionists everybody is when I say I'm going to do everything. So don't worry. I'm thinking about you. And yeah, that's the one I've got right there. And
this is 5 hours.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a chunky boy. So
so it's sort of somewhere in between an audiobook and a movie.
it's like a BBC style.
Was it done? It was done like serialized.
I have no idea what original form it took. I have the vinyl of it, and I bought it because I know that we're going to figure out some way to get to it. But yeah, like it's a combination of that and also like definitely like how much stuff about one movie do we really need to do? I chose the movie and the book because primarily it's a book club, and I feel like, you know, there's a lot of interplay there, and like pretty much everything that we watch, there's some sort of book analog to it. And that's like the main conversation that we're doing here.
Is it just another? The only reason why I want to listen to it is who is the cast?
It's them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, that's if it was like I'm Ira Glass and I'm playing Luke Skywalker.
It's the real actors for the most part, I think, for everyone. And that it's really cool. Like it's not something that you should miss or like skip on your own. But like I say, this is the book club, and this is about stuff mostly that's published, and the movies are there because they're kind of like, you need them because they are.
I'm actually upset now because I really want like 3PO and R2, Click and Clack, the Tapper Brothers, Car Talk. That's what I want. That's what I want.
You want the cast of NPR over the last 30 years to do Star Wars?
Mm-hmm. Yes. That is what I want.
I definitely, that of like the side stuff, because I would still do like the Muppet stuff or other stuff, but this seems like tier one. Like
there's lots of other stuff. Like I promise I haven't forgotten about you.
And this is also the perfect stuff. Like you're right. Cause we did we did go through it thrice over. Plus, there's the watch-alongs. Like,
Right.
there is a lot there where you might be like, got it.
I would like to get to Heir to the Empire.
In a year or two,
Yeah.
if you want to like dip back to the quaintness where you're like, let's just remember how it was.
Yes.
We'll always.
There, like, for example, in 1997, the special editions of Star Wars came out. There's all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of reasons to revisit these things, and we definitely will. As many times as they put Boba Fett in the canon, we will revisit everything in the canon.
Oh, Boba Fett.
Yeah, I promise. I promise
The
you.
man who crawled out of the Sarlacc pit.
If you're thinking I forgot about something, you better believe I did not, because this is like practically a fixation for me to make these lists. It's like the main reason this podcast exists is just because I liked making the list in my cell phone. That's why I have a comic collection as big as it is. It's just a list.
It's very big.
It's just a list.
Some say it's a full room.
It's a
worth of
store.
comics.
It's a store. I could literally open a comic book shop tomorrow and you would be like, this has a pretty good selection. I can't believe some of the rare editions here. Is that a library book that somebody just stole from a library? The answer is, I don't know. I just ordered it on eBay. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I got from my brother-in-law, he like found all of his I have like 40 or 50 old Canon books. Some of them have the library like slips.
I have
and
one with that
stamps
in this room, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I still got a lot. I still like
It almost makes it more legit.
there's huge stretches of those books that I just have tons of, but yeah, like, I mean, dude, I didn't forget about anyone. That's the whole point. Everything that you want us to cover, except for like DroidWorks kids science books. Like none of that's going to happen. Like educational stuff.
We watch like the Indian Star Wars.
What? Yeah, of course. Look, there's all kinds of stuff.
You got Davis. You got to see Indian Star Wars.
There's all kinds of stuff. And yes, there will be like great Patreon extras in the future when the Patreon is bigger and I have enough money to like hire more staff to make things on the show that we have time for. But that all comes with time.
Also, you got hit with a lot of life stuff.
I had a lot of life stuff in the last couple of months, but you know what? I'm alive.
Dude, life, man.
Yeah, bro.
You won't get out alive, brother.
Nope.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, the Force, dude.
Use the Force.
Hell yeah, bro. It's life rhymes, bro.
Yeah,
Just
the
like Star
fun
Wars.
stuff is like it's all good. Like
I'm fine.
Stuff we'll get to later and it'll be good.
Yeah.
Hi guys. I submitted a question in the previous Q&A after realizing something that shattered my brain. So sorry if you're reading the second time, but I cannot be the only one cursed with this knowledge. Big spoilers for BoJack Horseman if you haven't seen that yet. The song used for the theme music as Swak Bach is the same song that's played in the planetarium in BoJack when Sarah Lynn overdoses. Season 3, episode 11, 20 through 31. Caught me way off guard when I was doing a rewatch. Wild. Big fan, Peter.
Did you, Alex, did you set that up on purpose?
Yeah, well, in a way, yes.
You're about to overdose on Star Wars.
It's The Planets by Holst. So
It's
it's literally what would
so
play.
good.
It's literally what would play in any planetarium because it's literally about the planets. So if you've been to a planetarium, it's likely that you've heard at least one of the songs.
He didn't make it for the show.
Yeah, it's not from BoJack Horseman.
It wasn't called Planetarium because of Star Wars.
Yeah,
it just
But John Williams listened to these tracks, and I've only used stuff from that like composition, that whole thing. It's all Holst.
Wait, this inspired John Williams?
I mean, listen to it. I chose it because it sounds like Star Wars.
Oh, and it sounds like 70, like it's good.
Yeah.
You just said John Williams listened to him. Like, oh, is it like?
Yeah.
Is he been quoted as like
100%.
No, that's George Lucas.
This is
I was
some
about
of
to
the
do like when I was making the music for Star Wars, but that's not probably how he talks.
John Williams is probably like, fuck yeah, bitch. When I was writing this sick crap. Yeah.
Let me tell you about that Superman shit.
Dude, everything I do is fucking tens, bitch. Ain't no sevens for me. Alex is wrong as shit. I'm fucking John Williams. Harry Potter, that's me. Jurassic Park, that's me. Suck my dick. That's my new SNL character. You couldn't see it, but I was holding a joint in front of my mouth while I was saying that. What I was going to say is it's some of the most famous classical music ever written. So good. And even the like more high stakes stuff, like in the Star Tours promo, that's like kind of loud and exciting that is there. It's all from Holst. It's all him.
Damn. Sweet. You guys talked about a movie or series set in the Star Wars universe that focused on the Hutt crime family. If it was real, what kind of plot would you be interested in? And who would be a good voice for Jabba, Stinky, or whatever Hutt might lead the movie? Anyways, thanks for reading. Keep up the pod, please. It's pretty great. Pharaoh.
So they have normal voices we can understand instead of Huttese in this movie.
Or they don't, and it's all subtitles. And maybe there's like a few people that speak basic in the movie.
So Jabba has to have Jabba's voice. We can't change that. It's just Jabba's.
He has to.
Yeah, it's Jabba's voice.
We've now heard both. We've heard like Huttese, and we've heard when you put what's his face or like anybody that does a basic language version or whatever, it's the effect is lost.
What about
immediately?
I'm a little head from a crime family.
Yeah, that,
How about that?
No,
Yeah, we need to focus on stuff like that, like Salacious Crumb, Kevin Hart.
Yeah. No.
Yes,
This is a good
100%.
The
Salacious
question-
Crumb is Kevin
This
Hart.
is a good idea.
I think like let's not get lost on the voice part. Let's get lost
The best
in the plot thing.
the best scene from the Boba Fett show is that bounty hunt, that scene where like he meets those two Hutts in the street and they like threaten him, and they're like colorful and interesting, but they're like scary and they look gross and they look neat, and they don't speak basic. They speak Huttese and he understands them, and it works, and it looks scary, and it's like surreal in a way because they're like weird worms.
Right, but that's
I haven't seen that scene, but it sounds cool. Is it lean into that like weird, not like the Arena Master Hut, but the like cult mask, like the cult weird, like
very over the
ripped-
top Hutts.
They're like it's like very much that scene where like the bandit king comes and like is like, you don't know what you done, boy. You don't mess with the wrong farm, right? But it's like that, but like Hutts, and
But-
they're like brother and sister,
but
and they
more
like love
the
each.
guy who's like, well, you never thought you were going to get one of them.
It's like Aloysius Hutt.
Yes, yeah.
But
Jesse,
he's the cat. It's that big gay cat from Fievel Goes West.
Yes. The thing I think we need to focus on is who is the lead. Because Hutts are great background characters, but they can't like do much.
Here's what it is. Here's the answer. Ready?
they're like wrapped around each other.
Yeah, it's good. It's a power vacuum. That's the movie. It's Succession. It's like a family of Hutts. The guy who's about to die is the main Hutt, and then he like has all his children killed or something.
I see
Dude,
you.
that would be a like opening with like a poignant deathbed. All the Hutts are like there,
Like King
and then
Lear,
it's like
but it's
him
Hutts.
saying something sweet and nice, and like hoping they stick together. And it's like the moment he goes, it's like
I like this. I like where we're going, but I raise you Death of Stalin.
Yeah.
And it's Jabba the Hutt's died.
Perfect.
And it's all the Hutts have gathered, but it's also a comedy. It's played as a comedy, but everyone there is taking it seriously.
It's like a
but
dark. It's like a dark comedy.
Yeah, it's
like a
so
truly
over
dark
the top,
comedy. Yeah.
and so stupid because all the Hutts are ridiculous.
Now you're making like like an art film. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
now you're making-
I just don't like over the top comedy Hutt. Jabba the Hutt, I said it before and I'm going to say it again. Making Jabba the Hutt a big fucking slug is like sick. He is scary as shit. It's weird.
Yeah.
And so like, I would not want to like change that by making it a comedy. I would do like Hail Caesar. You guys seen that movie?
Yeah.
Where like, if I'm remembering correctly, it's sort
That's
of like
like
a
a-
slice of life
That's like a
vignette.
slapstick comedy.
But not the like tone of it, but how it's like a like vertical slice of like Josh Brolin, like the head producer, like what life is like for him.
Yeah.
I would do that, but for Jabba, like what is a day in the life of the thing? So you get like a bunch of side stories. They would not be slapstick comedy like that movie is. There wouldn't be like Channing Tatum dance numbers, but you could jump around and you could see every level of the like crime syndicate. You could even fucking throw Han and Chewie in for like a side thing and it wouldn't be weird. But seeing like how this like crazy scary guy like keeps it going, and you don't have to like worry about a season-long arc. You just get like a cool little slice, and that's the story.
I will, as a fellow producer, I'll allow you this, except there has to be at least one scene that's a word that it were so simple, but with Salacious Crumb. Can we agree on this?
Yes,
Played
yes.
by Kevin Hart.
Yeah, 100%.
There can be
This is like how movies actually get.
there can be like comedy in it, but I like the things that I would not put in. I don't mean like that Coen Brothers level of whatever.
Well, when we're talking about comedy right now, we're talking about more like how like Starship Troopers is a comedy, or like The Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage is a
Or
comedy.
even how C-3PO is comedic. It's just it doesn't like stretch the rules of the universe.
We're talking.
more like a literarily, technically a
Yeah, we're
comedy.
talking like 3PO of episodes 4, 5, 6, not 3PO of episodes 1, 2, 3.
Yes, exactly.
That's what we're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about the best movie ever made, and we're talking about the shortest stand-up comedian ever made. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Hart is Salacious Crumb. And this is Salacious Crumb the movie on Disney Plus. Available now. It's 88 minutes long. He's the only person in it. He does it all on green screen.
The Rock plays a Gamorrean guard.
Yeah. The Rock shows up and does a masked cameo where he's just a voice.
You get like a little bit with the Rancor guy, like, oh.
Make him the main character, actually. You know what you know what it should be? You know what the movie should be? Fuck all of this. It should be set in an alternate universe where Jabba the Hutt lives, or actually it's even better that it's Jabba the Hutt dies. And he's trying to get a refund. He's like trying to get paid back for his dead Rancor, and he just like has to figure it out.
He has to go to Nar Shaddaa and Nal Hutta, and it's just like him trying to get his money back.
He has to figure it out, and he has to learn how the whole, you see it all through his eyes, and by the end, he's like a Cthulhu fanatic.
Is it like Pig?
Yeah, like in the end, he's like crazy, and he's like a Hutt devotionist. He's like lost his mind, and he's like joined the Hutt inner circle, and you find out that the reason that the Hutts are in control is because there's something scary about them.
That is so good. And like, think about being in it. Like, if you're given a
and it's like
Barton Fink, Jabba,
Barton Fink energy. Yeah,
it's the perfect setup because you can't. Jabba is not dissimilar to Vader in like, you can't fuck up. So if you are tasked with getting him like a sick new Rancor, you don't like, and there's other shit happening. You're like, I have to have this. Like, you don't get to just be like, well, there was a shipping error and they forgot to poke holes and the Rancor died. It's like, you have to bring him back.
Yeah.
This is actually, all right, producer hat. This is a good idea. The only one who knows the way to see the Hutts,
Salacious
Kevin Hart, Salacious Crumb.
Dude, I would hire him and have him be like Alan Tudyk as the fucking chicken in Moana, where he doesn't act, he just does the chicken. It's like he's just like it's like he plays it serious, I guess. Like, just actually get Kevin Hart to play it serious.
That is so funny.
Have him show up at the premiere.
And like imagine how weird it would be. Like I forget what his name is.
Crumbs. I don't know what that means, but I see people do it a lot. I think I used it correctly.
Crumbs.
Right?
Think about this fucking poor guy with his dead friend, right? Because already he had a visceral reaction.
Yeah.
He was crying.
That was his boy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then here's the other thing. Imagine like you have to go to like the Hutt headquarters, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And they offer you like refreshments, and it's like a bucket of screaming worms that are like alive.
Well, that's what's exciting, because everyone thinks that the Hutts are on Nar Shaddaa, which is a beautiful gambling planet. But like,
no, they're on Nal Hutta.
Right, they're on Nal Hutta, which is a swamp.
Yeah,
there's nothing there, just a bunch of slugs in a swamp. I think that would be an awesome way to end it, where it's like going back to Davis's Cthulhu-y thing. Like, they're just a bunch of weird giant slugs in a swamp. Like that'd be creepy as shit.
And he like eats worms, and like he gets all fucked up because he eats like the Hutt worms and stuff.
I like that.
There's just like 90 different ways you could do the cosmic horror of Hutts in sick ways.
Yeah. The point is Star Wars is a fucking incredible setting, and anybody who says that you can't make a good Star Wars movie is literally dumb.
I don't know if they go into it ever more, but like most people that get Jedi mind trick, it just works on. Jabba is like the only or the first person that it like hard counter. He's like, no. So you can already just assume that like.
So technically it happened to Watto first if you think about it.
Get out of here.
If it didn't require me to like not be sitting so comfortably, I would have kicked you in the nuts for that.
That's all right. I was with you last time in SGS.
Right. So I'll give you a little. I'll give you a little.
He tickled my balls.
Crumbs?
Yeah. He gave me little crumbs on my balls. On my Darth balls. Crumbed up my balls
with a 4.
I crame.
Fuck. What was I gonna say? Oh no, but you could infer that he's like a dark force.
Like there's something within him.
Like they're an inherently dark force.
There are innately,
or even just force strong.
There are innately force strong animals in the Star Wars world.
Like that's why they could domineer other people, is because they're
they like have a gland that like shoots force energy.
It's literally part of the next big trilogy's plot that we're gonna get to. Thrawn straight up just has lizards that are like, sorry.
The Yslamirs.
Like, yeah, sorry, dude. You can't hit with the force.
No, they're called, what is that what they're called? Yslamirs?
I don't know what the hell they're called.
Something manders.
They're just lizards that he has around him all the time.
And then there's the Vornskurs that can hunt, they can like smell force.
That's much later, and that's cool as shit. We'll get there.
Next question.
Sure.
What are everyone's thoughts on lightsabers in general? To me, seems initially they were fetishized by a certain group of elitist space monks as sort of holy weapon, the clear analog being samurai and katana. But as the media evolves, they become more swashbuckling Errol Flynn devices. Anyway, what's cooler than a laser sword? A flaming sword. A sword on fire is the coolest thing that there is, and this is the closest thing that sci-fi has to that.
Other than that alarm sound from the Rogue One trailer, I've never seen Davis more like at full mast from a movie trailer than when Hellboy 2019 came out of the ground with his fucking flaming sword. Even though the movie was like at best a 7, was like
I didn't know it was a 7 when the trailer came out.
I'm just saying.
I was just happy to have more Hellboy.
All that he needed was the sword.
But as we know, a 7 is what you should aspire to.
Yeah, I was just backing you up.
Yes. Or what's his face from
Game of Thrones?
Dude, that
guy was cool as shit.
Yeah, that was cool.
Here's the thing. I think the questioner here is completely on point because it's very obvious early on that a lightsaber was a samurai sword because the fights were like 3 blows. It was a very quick. It wasn't. You were trying to position yourself.
Fucking fight with Obi-Wan and Darth Maul from Rebels. That shit.
It is like 3 swings and a dude is yeah. But even the Rebels Darth Maul fight, like you were saying,
fucking
that is
smacks.
Most of them just positioning and then one quick move, which it's a samurai fight. And absolutely, after the prequels, it became swashbuckling. We're gonna like twirl and flip and jump and it's a different vibe. Doesn't make it less cool, but it's just a different vibe. And then the difference in the sequels is that, and I think it was smart of them to do that, no one's trained in it, so they're just wildly swinging a sword. And I was like, that's clever as well. So I mean, I guess it just depends on how you want to do it.
What are we talking about?
Also, when you like look at interviews, they literally like at first they're unwieldy broadswords that you have to be like really powerful to use. You have to two-hand it, and then it just like slowly became a different type of weapon.
Like,
so
what do you think the nature of this question is? First of all, like,
well, the nature of the
we're talking about like as a literary device within the writing of Star Wars, or are we talking about with like as a historical object?
Just as
it might be like across it, because he like talks about it like first they were fetishized by a certain group of elitist space monks as a sort of holy weapon, but as the media evolves, they become more swashbuckling. It kind of is multiple because from the media we know that the Jedi, you see them as like the signature weapon, but they sound like that people use them earlier. They're just an outdated technology that the Jedi still kept using.
The biggest problem is, and it's also problematic with the question, is that because 1, 2, and 3 come out after 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, and 3 are older, the things that are happening in it are like more modern though. So basically, at the height of the Republic,
there never been a movie that looked like
right. But I'm
Episode
saying like
1 at the time,
specifically with lightsabers. Yeah. Lucas went full in on the Matrixization of what lightsaber fighting is.
Right. That was like the same year. Yeah.
And so all that shit that's happening with lightsabers in those movies, and from that point on, is flipping and twirling and jumping, and it looks cool. It's super entertaining. But the whole point of the first ones is that the lightsaber was like an ancient style weapon, and just like a samurai, the people that have them are few, and you actually originally had to have the Force to even activate.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
So it was a entirely different beast. And then later it was a whole other thing. And so
like,
who knows?
It became like, I feel like the Jedi, like historically, and this is like me talking out of my ass. Like, I don't have a textbook about this because this is all made up bullshit, right? But like, here's what's up. Like in my mind, you're right. Like, I feel like at one point they were like focuses, like a magic wand,
right?
Like a sigil.
I mean, just like a samurai sword, it's an extension of the samurai.
Yeah, like it in a literal sense,
right?
They were like wielding the actual Force as a weapon, and because they were doing that with these little focus sigils, almost like a magic wand, they created a sword culture. And because it was killing them to use these things as something, like they decided to make a powered version, right? And then that just evolved along with them. Like there was never a time when anybody else really used lightsabers. Like there were definitely laser swords and vibro swords and other types of weapons in the Star Wars universe that were around, but lightsabers as an item are actually part of the Jedi history.
And they were so powerful. I mean, as we go through the comics, as we go through some of the stuff that happens before episode 1, because we have all this, like, many years of content, you're absolutely right that it is a weapon that is so powerful that even igniting it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And you're walking around and everyone's terrified of you because one slash and you're cutting through like 60 dudes.
Yeah. And you're literally warriors of enlightenment. It's a torch. It lights, it protects you, it guards you, it protects the others. It's literally like a visual symbol of everything that the Jedi represent. And it's a sword of actual fucking light, right? It's actually like just a complete literary device. And the difference between samurai and the Jedi are that samurai are real and the Jedi are a literary idea. And so the evolution, of course, is like sort of like, because we are humans and we live on Earth, right? We're mapping our culture onto Jedi. So it's also this perfectly beautiful postmodern like weapon that not only wields like light and the power of the Jedi within himself in the literal sense in the text, but also for us is the Jedi wielding our actual culture to help us understand what is happening. And like the fact that our culture is so surrounded by all these noble warriors that use swords, it's like a sort of signifier of what type of thing it is. So like,
well, they're also like Jedi Knights.
Yeah,
like samurai weren't knights, but they
basically
have like a similar thing. So I do think that they also sort of, because they also like they're like broadswords too. So like I do think that there's with the light and like weren't the knights also seen as like holy warriors in the Crusades? Like it all
100%.
It like across multiple cultures.
It's like a beautiful postmodern metatextual icon, symbol, weapon, literary device. And I think if you look back at what Star Wars is, it's like a pastiche of styles from like a pulp era, right? Everything Star Wars kind of adheres to that. And if you look at martial arts movies that came out in between, like where Star Wars was in the 70s, what kind of samurai movies were coming out and what kind of martial arts movies were coming out. And then you look at the 90s, it's just literally the same well that he's returning to like grab the updated version while also mapping it to like 1930s silent cinema and like all these other things. It's all just crazy pastiche. And the lightsaber is like the allegory of the cave, like ultimate form of the sword that can be any type of sword we've ever seen.
Exactly. At the end of the day, it's the same thing as if a kid picks up a stick. If the stick looks sword enough, you're living that fantasy for a minute as a kid.
You can feel it.
Yeah. I do think it becoming more like it would make sense that during the prequel era that they would be more proficient with it. I don't know that like some of the shit that they do makes as much sense. I actually like really like the sequel era lightsabers because they were like,
snow is really
it's
awesome.
gonna be sick, but it will be toned down, like
raw.
It needs to be like a little bit more toned down. Even when they do the I don't love the movie, but like in the trailer where Rey does like the jump flip swing is like, that to me is like, yes, that somehow does not feel absurd like some of the
like the most amazing thing that she does, and it takes everything out of her, and it's like it's like significant to like the action of the movie. It's not just like one of 4,000 things that she does,
but it also feels right in the universe where, I mean, there's a lot that's going on in like the Battle of Geonosis where like things are happening where you just are like, this is not real and doesn't feel real, and they'll be like, and then they'll like CG do something weird. It's like that. I believe it.
That felt like a miracle. It felt like a miracle that like a holy person pulls out and does. Like when Gandalf,
it's like you falling in, you like surrendering to the Force as a light side and just like
when Gandalf uses like his powers like one of like 4 or 5 times to like do something real in Lord of the Rings. That's what that should feel like. When a Jedi does something that amazing.
But at the same time, it going back to the timeline of the monks and stuff. The biggest problem is you have these characters who are flipping and twirling and doing all this stuff in the prequels. But if they're these sage monks with their like, it's a weird tone because you would think if they've spent all this time, like maybe you could have one guy who's like, I'm Kaya Mundi, like some dude who just is flippy, but it's weird that all the Jedi seem to be a complete different version of Jedi.
It's because it's a pastiche. It's because they're
absolutely, but it's
like a style.
But like what the question's asking, it's a weird vibe. It is strange that for some reason during this one period, the Jedi were like, "Fuck it, dance party every fight."
Like if you were reading like a stylized retelling of Episode 3 and what was it, Episode 7, and you wanted to make it into rapiers to have it be more similar to 1930 cinema, and you did the whole story like that, everybody who's ever fought with a lightsaber is going to fight like Errol Flynn.
Sure.
And if you wanted to do it in a samurai style, everybody who's ever fought with a lightsaber fights like a fucking, Ronin samurai badass. And if you do it in the style of Knight Crusades, everybody's going to have that weighty sword. And that's just, and you can tell any story in any of those styles. And that's the beauty of the lightsaber, is that it's like a weightless sword that can become
Star Wars.
anything.
Yeah, anything can be anything.
Crossguard, whatever aside, that it does a great job of being like, this is a fucking big, heavy, powerful. Its swings are more powerful. You even have the ability to do that with the design language too.
Yeah, the idea that Star Wars has the level of and I know they don't even think about it in Star Trek, really. I know they really don't give it that much thought till after the fact, really. But the thought that Star Wars has a consistent technology or sociological culture or a consistent tone is just, I think, misguided. I think Star Wars bends to the will of whoever's writing it freely, by design, because it's primarily more of a fantasy pastiche than it is trying to be anything specific. And I know that our brains are conditioned nowadays to just want to pack it all into one multiverse. But I want to remind everybody that we didn't used to think like this. And it's weird that we do now. And it's hard to separate the things that happen in one piece of Star Wars media from the things that happen in another piece of Star Wars media. But let the lightsaber guide you, and just let it be clear that but look how dumb the Imperials are in Star Wars, and look how smart they are in Andor, even though they're dumb in another way.
They do that though. If they didn't want to put R2 and 3PO in everything, then we wouldn't associate it all being connected. You know what I mean? There are things that happen where they're no, this is that world though. Remember, this is that world.
Yeah.
And I would rather, if you're going to make a universe so big, you can tell us a million stories, and you can have Jedi fight one way or a lightsaber, or you can have it. Just don't always constantly hit us over the head that it's the same thing, because they want us to connect it all.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that there isn't a history.
Also, let's just remember the Imperials in Star Wars aren't dumb. They purposefully don't kill them to make them think they escaped, to follow them back to their home planet. The only thing is they're overconfident at the end.
Well, I just mean the structure,
which
and
is very fitting.
Just the structure and the way that the Imperials are depicted, the war machine looks so much simpler and so much more straightforward because it was 1977 and no one's ever thinking about.
You're just seeing the captain's table instead of
the idea
every different snapshot you get.
No one was thinking. Nobody was sitting there in 1977 being can you imagine what it's like to be a citizen on Coruscant and to work an office job for the Empire, and how weird that would be? And I wonder what it's like to be a low level Imperial,
with a mother that's
nobody was thinking anywhere near that deep. And the only reason that exists for us now is because somebody wanted to do a Zero Dark 30 ass show, fucking political relevant thriller set in Star Wars, and that colors the whole tone of the show. Guns don't have the same power level from one Star Wars thing to the next because of melodrama, not because of errors in the fucking fact sheet.
I think if they made it clear at the beginning, when they do the scroll at the beginning, if they just made it clear every time that these are stories. You're basically being told a story.
The Journal of the Wills.
Which is what it is. It's really just stories written down. They could get away with it easily.
That's the thing that I don't get mad about when it comes to Star Wars is tonal whiplash or inconsistencies with like everybody had a big problem with the Holdo maneuver. It's like, dude, like it was a fucking spaceship that did a samurai kill. Like, how are you like looking any deeper into it than that? Like, we don't need to know about like the facts.
The difference is that with that, and this is the problem. Again, they set up, they like specifically point out in the lore. And this is why they shouldn't do this. I'm with you on like they get too hyper specific on shit where they're like, no ship could do that, dude. And then when it happens, people are like, but you told us for literally
it's just hype,
2 decades.
It's just to heighten the drama. Like, that's
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm just saying that getting hyper specific with Star Wars, again, this is my biggest problem with the Solo movie. You don't need to get like, I didn't ever need to know Han Solo's backstory.
I think that was a bad choice.
Being mysterious is what made him cool. And that's that kind of stuff. We're like, we don't need all the answers. Leave it open so we can just like exist in the world.
We got a trilogy of Han Solo prequel books that all slap.
Yeah.
And they just tickle the thought of what came before. That he had an imperial career, that he had a like Red Dead Redemption in space career, that what was the one in the third one? He was like, it was more like flying and helping people.
He was like a stuntman's assistant.
I guess that just tied back into his like first day in
He was like a grease monkey. He has a lot. He's like a good ass pilot in a way.
But the point is like, and I do think that there may be one or two things. Oh, I had to just remember that like when he got cut on the chin, I'm like, oh, Harrison Ford has a thing. And I guess because it's a book, you can't zoom in on it. And I don't recall them saying, or they're like, and that would never heal. But like, it's like that. Like, cool. You get like little bits of background that like do it.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I don't really think it's actually that strong of a choice to like focus on explaining to people why things that we already know about are the way that they are. I think that making things literal and mundane in that way is the nebulous answer that nobody ever really hits on exactly about what makes good Star Wars and what makes bad Star Wars, is that the good Star Wars is wrapped up in the singular, like beautiful vision that they have. And the Star Wars that doesn't hit as hard is like got a lot of goals that aren't telling a story. And I know that just sounds like meddling from the outside, but it's really just about like Andor sailed right through because it technically fit their brief and like didn't try to do more than it needed to do. And it just set out to do its one little thing. And we bought it because we just liked it because it's good. Like, I don't care that the Mon Mothma that we see in the Star Wars movies, like, doesn't really evoke the character that we see in Andor because it's good. Like, the goodness is the thing that we respond to. It's not the explanation of why something is the way that it is. That's fake satisfying. That's
my problem with
putting salt in everything and sugar in everything.
My problem with how big companies, which have to play it safe or what they think is like safe, especially with prequels, is they treat like they like have already predetermined the character's fate. There's no surprises. Mon Mothma, as we saw, was like always the sad, not quite like tough enough commander that was destined to need to be replaced. But here, she got to be like, we got to see how much of an actual badass she is. They just like wrote her like she was in the fucking Crown or the Wire, and
the
she's
entire
still
Star
100%
Wars.
the character that is Mon Mothma. But you like, it was done so well, so like well realized that you're like sick. You made like her just having to like do a couple of things fucking gripping.
They leveled up the texture of the Star Wars universe in total. They leveled up the like level of detail. They like made it deeper and they showed us a lower dreg and they made it much more realistic and much more gritty than Star Wars usually gets. But like the Rey movie, for example, is not going to like have that vibe, right? But both are Star Wars, and I'm not going to be like mad that I'm not thinking about the stuff from Andor anymore when I see the Rey movie, because the Rey movie is going to be like, you know, its own thing. You know, it's just that type of thing. And I think just going deeper than that to try and explain something to yourself about why something that you already know about is the way that it is really weird. I don't know what our compulsion is on that. It's really strange. Anyway, let's switch over to the
discussion
question, since we're at a nice I don't know how long we've been going. I feel like we've been going for a long time, but let's just get into those discussion questions from the Empire Strikes Back movie. Again, we watched the 4K. What is it? What is it called? The 81 4K edition. I forget what it's called.
It's somewhere there.
It's that version that they like demade back to off of like film rolls and is like a complete, like fully restored pretty much version of the theatrical print. So we asked, what was the question that you asked?
Yeah, we're just talking about because like our minds were reblown by how good the original like effects or how vibey they were, like how not dissonant, how harmonious they were with everything else, and how generally we were not a big fan of.
It resets the movies stuff. In 1980. It like, it does a lot of cool things.
But so we were like, well, do the newer effects create like weird anachronistic dissonance for you guys, or do you prefer when they smooth over the rough edges with like the most modern tech?
This is almost like the special effects version of what we were just talking about.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dan Solstrom. Oh, maybe that is just
that's pretty good. Yeah,
they just got like the it's got a lot of stuff, so it looks scarier than it was. Like Cantaloupe when I was 5. I love it.
Nice.
Okay.
Where does he pull that stuff from?
I wonder if
my life.
What do you think that's about?
It was just right there at the surface.
He's cantaloupe and he's like,
I just use it a lot because like when I was a kid, I just was like, I didn't want to eat it. It was like a whole thing. And then I tried it and I fucking loved it.
It's just vibing me out because my dad like asked me about cantaloupe today. I don't know. It was just a weird one.
I am your dad.
Yeah, I was about to say, whoa,
I'm your daddy. The cleaned up special effects, this is Dan saying, the cleaned up special effects and CGI doesn't really bother me as much as all the new inserted scenes. The weird, just straight up CGI nonsense that only detracts from the overall textures of the movie and add nothing of value. Lucas is a legend, but he needed more people around him to say no during the 90s aughts when this was going on. People just did whatever he said because he's Lucas. I, however, do want the prequels fixed. They have not aged well, or not aged great.
Fixed?
I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of, you go in, do the same thing you do with special editions, and because
they're basically made to be updated.
Haven't they?
Yes.
But haven't they been like stealthily tweaking and updating shit?
Yes.
Forever? They just didn't do like a special edition.
That's why they keep re-releasing stuff.
I don't know about the prequels, to be honest. Like I always check the old ones, like when they made the Ewoks blink and shit. Like I remember they did that like for the Blu-ray release of Star Wars. But like I've never thought to be like, I wonder what's changed. I know they like fixed Yoda at one point.
Yes.
I remember like for the home video, like
he was like a puppet, but it was too good looking, you were saying, and then
it wasn't too good looking. It like
weird.
It didn't look right. It didn't like look like
he was
old
gold.
No, but he was like too. Oh, okay. It wasn't like he was too clean.
No, he was gold. He like had a gold tinge.
Like look him up. Like look up original episode 1 Yoda puppet. It's like
it's bizarre.
They just like didn't hit the brief. It just didn't look like the same guy. It looked like another Yodo. It looked like another Yododio.
Oh,
whatever they're called.
Oh my god,
Grogagi.
It just
Yodert.
It looked like another Grogandio.
It just looks like a different. You're right. It's like that's not.
That's like
Yoda. That's like Doc Brown.
That's like that's like Brogu. That's like
Brogu slaps.
That's like
man.
I'm gonna make up a completely original Yodagi name.
This is like there's a picture of like the puppet and the CGI model, and it just looks like they're sitting. They're just two different
dudes. It's Yoda and a guy
sitting next to each other. They are not the same hue, the same face shape.
My new Yodanji name is Lobus.
What's
Gorungle?
Like we got Yoda, we've got Yaddle, we've got Grogu, and now Lobus.
Grumpus.
His head is the different shape. What the fuck?
Lobus is the name of the guy that we all mistook for Yoda in episode 1, The Phantom Menace. When we saw it when we saw it in theaters, that was Lobus.
I think they definitely should go back because a lot of the, I agree actually, a lot of the, if you go back and watch episode 1, 2, and 3, a lot of the scenes, man, they did not age well. And if you think about the fact that at the same time, Lord of the Rings came out in 2001, and that movie, all of it looks great still. The only thing in that movie that looks a little weird is the Nazgul have like a shader over their face that you can now see after this many years because TVs have just gotten better. That's the only thing that sucks. And Star Wars now.
They also stylized really well, like underwater, the way they do like underwater and other stuff, like has a like fairy tale book thing. So it like covers it well.
Yeah. And, like all of the end of episode 2 has not aged well at all. Just like go back and
There's
watch
some parts
it.
that
It does
look
not
like
look.
there's parts that look like a 2.5D like puzzle.
It looks like a video
platformer.
game, like
Yeah.
a modern day video game.
Dude, like FMV, like a higher res
Yes.
FMV game
There's
kind of thing.
there's some weird parts, but honestly, like the whole movie is just blue screens, right? Like what do we
Almost
talk-
the entire trilogy.
We can just
Yeah.
like do composites of like everything redone,
and they should. They really should.
I mean, at this point, who the fuck cares? Like, I never felt like. I mean, are we close? Like, can we get to the point where we just like have toggles at the beginning, like a fucking sliders for a game? Like, can we just turn on like Yoda, like natural Yoda
Ray
or
tracing.
Lobus? Like, can we have like the Yoda slider? And can we just?
We have that. It's just really shitty and it's motion smoothing.
Well, no, like it's not like I can't like turn on like the theatrical cut when I want to watch like the original Phantom Menace, or if I want to watch like, you know, the film, like the 35 millimeter print of Phantom Menace 4K, like I should be able to watch that separate from any like retouched movie.
That would be super sick. I know that based on like rights and residuals that Disney will never allow, like that they couldn't just like pull the fan one, but there's no reason like
It doesn't need to be the fan one. It doesn't need to be the fan one. Like they probably have a fucking perfect print of it and they don't need to do what the fans did and like meticulously recreate it from like multiple reels from multiple sources, like scrounging through the trash of capitalism to find anything that they can that hasn't been destroyed. You know what I mean? Like if they didn't have
Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
I'm just saying, like, if Disney just like digitized the print of it and like put it on their fucking Blu-ray, like fucking respectable people, I don't care if it's unheard of because it's a good idea and there's literally nothing stopping them.
Yeah.
To the main question this guy had, I think we can all agree probably that some of the changes to the originals are fun and some are atrocious. Like making it so you see a little bit of a weird, creepy monster on Tatooine. Like, all right, that's fine. Including an entire dance number, not cool.
Just kind of wild, discordant.
I know, like, that they not just add more like X-Wings at the end of A New Hope, but they also like recut that sequence to make more sense. And I like observe that as a better editing job.
Sure.
So maybe that's in line with like, oh, well, it's just the same footage, just cut better. I could be cool with that. But there is something in that I especially like the older I get, the more it's like how it was made in the moment is it. That's it.
That's
Don't,
kind of
like,
where I'm at.
Don't change it. Even if you think you're changing it for the better, it's done. Like that's the piece. It's weird to like try to change.
I think
it
people
in
would
general.
be. I think people would be fucking surprised. Go online and watch a trailer, please, for those 4K like original restorations, the 4K 77 and the 4K 80. Like, go watch at least a trailer and just look at the grain and the grime on the film, and like I'm trying to look past the scratches. That's something different. That's from the film itself. But like when you film something on film, there's no way to mistake what era it's from. Like the way that the film was treated at the time is like very obviously like dates it to a certain era. And Star Wars,
it's like what your Instagram filters are mimicking.
yeah, but Star Wars like really went in and like, I think the bigger sin than anything is going in and cleaning up any sign that this movie is old in any way. Like it shouldn't look as clear as it does. I feel like there's a lot of work that's done on it all the time that's like not even like really noticeable if you from one, unless you're sitting there with two copies of the movie playing at the same time. Like little just visual things are cleaned up, and the idea that it was any time besides right now when they filmed it is like slowly being removed.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Anyway, next one.
Joel Cox said, I give permission to use this.
Nice.
Sweet. I am of the mind of
your
keeping
cousin.
media in its original form. Even small changes with the intensive cleaning and effect opens up a door that I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah, bam.
But for the sake of discussion, if it had to happen and I was given the power to limit what can be changed, it would involve cleaning up the blue screen. Ironically, I choose the special effect because of the potential dissonance it can cause between audience and film. The blue haze around actors, especially in movement, reminds the audience that they are watching a film and that the immersion of adventure in the stars is broken. And the same can be said of R2's black surface on a starry background. Even you three voiced questions about it. I admit that it was likely due to the format of a discussion-based watch-along, but I can't believe you were alone in that observation. I think the audience being aware beyond the subconscious level that they are watching a film is enough to warrant the clearing of this effect. Yeah, the breaking of the fourth wall is always or whatever, an interesting question. Like lens flare is inherently that.
It's like adding color to a black and white film because it's not it's not reality if it's not in color.
It's weird because for me it's the same shit as the new stuff versus reading old stuff. I'll want changes when something is contemporary, but once it's antiquity, it's well, now that's how it was.
People weren't this is a bad special effect that's not cleanly done in 1977. In 1977, people were walking out of the ILM test shot demos that they were doing. People like Steven Spielberg, and they were I've seen something made real that I couldn't even have imagined in my wildest
wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
in my wildest dreams. You know what I mean? People saw these shitty quote unquote unimmersive quote unquote special effects in 1977 and their jaws hit the floor, they shit their pants, and they saw the movie 10 more times.
I mean, it's the same thing with the boxes around the TIE fighters.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's
but here's
look at any other movie from that time. Fuck off.
in Pirates of the Caribbean, everything's on sticks. In Haunted Mansion, the ghosts are
they're bones. They're skeletons.
But this is one of those things where at the time, I don't ever remember noticing boxes around them. our technology got better.
Yeah.
The TVs became clearer, and now it kind of ruins the illusion a little bit. But it doesn't make it less cool than it was. It doesn't change anything about it. It's still a great movie. It's an old movie.
Artifice is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about artifice. Look at something that's conceptual. Look at theater, for example. Theater is a great example because you can't remove yourself from the artifice. The fact is, we are watching a film.
Right.
We are watching a representation of our imaginations made physical, tangible in the world. And I think that changing it is unnecessary. I think the effect is preserved if you're willing to perceive it. And if you're not willing to perceive it, I'm sure that George Lucas, will make a version of the movie for you that is acceptable eventually. I feel the idea that we go back and relitigate what looks good is kind of a slippery slope.
Sure.
And it's oftentimes driven by people that don't have
The context.
Yeah. They're just this. And you're
I really like Star Wars, and these are the most important movies in Star Wars, and they look old, so I need them to be as new as the rest of Star Wars.
It's kind of like in Goonies. Do y'all remember this? Goonies used to have a scene with an octopus.
Yeah.
And then they took it out because the octopus looked goofy.
Yeah, it looked like
it was like a rubber thing.
Yeah, it looked fake.
But I kind of miss the octopus.
Yeah.
I miss that terrible, goofy looking octopus. And you can't see it in a new version. It just doesn't exist anymore.
It feels
stop motion stuff is it looks weird. Like Ed 209 or
RoboCop
Clash
2.
of the Titans, all that stuff. It looks weird, but it is also that's what it was. I don't know. It's
if we for example, explosions don't occur in space. But they happen all the time in Star Wars. It doesn't remove me from the movie. The fact that I can hear the lasers and I wouldn't be able to hear them in real life. It doesn't remove. It doesn't, because there was no microphone out there.
Right.
And it wasn't in space. It's just camera effects. It's all artifice. My point is just that all we're doing is making our arm look like a snake, and people are whoa, it is a snake because I put an eye on the fucking hand by where the eye would be on a snake. And that looks like a snake to you if your brain works, right? You understand what I'm doing. And I think we're really underselling the power of the human brain in that respect.
I also think
You're not
In
literally
reverse,
watching it when you're watching it.
The like things that stand out the most for me, and I know other people respond to them well in the new stuff, is using the latest technology to mimic old tech, or like having the guy from Mandalorian be a like animatronic, but like with some inherent jank put in, or like even K2SO to me, I think they wanted to make him look like he was being moved by people. Like
100%.
He moves not like the battle droids, which don't move like droids. They move like nonsense.
And look at C-3PO.
And K2 looks like you could imagine there were people
like how like how Anthony Daniels did C-3PO actually in The Phantom Menace.
It's the same kind of thought process you have to have as seeing the Lion King movie and then going to see Lion King on Broadway.
I was literally going to use that exact example. Yeah,
a person in a hat dancing.
They like bend over and the head goes down.
Yeah, but like you get it. You're not going to sit there and be like, "This wasn't lions at all."
Yeah, exactly.
Like you know what you're in for, and you accept it, and that's what people should do with movies.
Rewatching. I mean, it maybe if you never had this in your life, it maybe like we have remember that so we can do it. But like watching the Muppet movies again as an adult, and you like forget. You just forget for a second that they're not real.
Yeah.
Like midway through
it's
the
fucking
Muppet
hilarious.
Christmas Carol, you just are like on board, and then you're like, oh, what the fuck? Those aren't real.
Anybody who's like online and alert and aware, that's all they ever talk about when they've gotten to work with Muppets is they talk about how after a while they just start talking to the hand because that's who's real to them now. Like Kermit eventually comes to life in front of their eyes, even though he's a fucking puppet. Even
Their
when
outtakes are in character.
Even when there's a guy down there, like looking at you, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to like poo poo. I'm just saying like, I don't know that I need it to be unnoticeable because if my head's in the right place, I'm not trying to notice.
Sure.
Yeah.
The end of rant.
Tim Franzik says, I was born in 87, so I grew up watching the same VHS releases that I'm sure you guys watched.
Leonard Maltin.
Although I used to watch them so frequently that my mom urged me to watch some recorded off TV copies instead, since I used to wear out the tapes.
Damn. I love that.
I definitely remember thinking that the special edition changes to Cloud City, for example, were interesting, especially if they were closer to the original vision and just not achievable when they originally made the film. That being said, I watched it so many times before the special editions came out, and all of those changes just pull me right out of the film, and I don't think I can objectively judge whether it looks better or worse. There are CG changes to A New Hope and Return of the Jedi that have aged very poorly, not to mention the ever-increasing door size for Jabba's palace. Do they do that? I remember so little of Return
It used
of the
to
Jedi
be like a little
edition.
tiny baby door, and now it's a giant Jabba-esque door.
Which is ridiculous and doesn't match the interior shot at all anymore. So I guess Empire Strikes Back is the least mess with the original trilogy, but I'd still rather watch Project 4K or at least the despecialized edition, just because the changes are kind of jarring. Maybe that's silly, but it is what it is. Cloud City should be all white walls and ceilings, and I should be able to see through the solid parts of the speeder cockpit just a little bit because that's what I grew up with.
Like we're like, just to jump on that example again about Cloud City, like, because he said, you know, they couldn't do it. He's talking about how what the creators of the movie often say, which is that we're realizing the vision that we had back then that we couldn't do. Sure. Right. Which is like, it sounds like it makes sense. Right. But it's not like they like went to build the set and they were like, where's the windows? Oh, we fucked up. We couldn't get the windows in there. It's that they had a limitation because of where technology was at, and they compromised with reality to like realize their vision as best they could. And then they shot a movie on it, even though it was in a warehouse.
That's like literally what I was thinking too about. Like that excuse is like, oh, we wanted at the time is like, you probably wanted photorealistic everything at the time. You didn't make the set and it fucked up. You just couldn't do it.
I want to remake Return of the Jedi, except while I was making it, I was getting a blowjob the whole time.
And
I want to have been getting a blowjob
by Snai Snoodles.
Yeah.
Whatever her name is. Isn't it Snai Snoodles?
It's size Snoodles.
Whatever. Yeah, it is. What you want at the time is like, that is
you had to
so open-ended it could mean anything.
Yeah, you made a movie. Like, you made a choice.
You made it.
Just as an example,
I get like, you make a movie 3 times in the writing and the shooting and the editing, but like,
then it's done.
you didn't like, you could wish that it wasn't, but that is like how it's done. And in a way, if you just like remove yourself, like that is what happens. And you're not, how I would like special editions, like remake the whole fucking movie, rewrite the entire script, reshoot everything, because then at least it'll all be a cohesive new vision instead of this like Frankenstein's monster of a thing.
But just for everyone listening at home, take a minute right now. Let's play a little game. How many movies do you know that have been remade?
Fully?
Yeah.
So many.
And I mean, like from the director redoing his own movie again.
Like once.
That's what I'm saying. The people will remake it as like, oh, I love that movie, so I'm going to make it my way.
Or like a studio's like, that movie was very popular. I'd like to make a second version of it that just has the same name.
But an own director going back and being like, I could have made that better. It rarely happens. Star Wars is one of the few exceptions where that happens.
Weirdly, like Ridley Scott with whatever the fuck he's doing with Prometheus in those movies is sort of weirdly doing that.
He's not like remaking it though. He's like just expanding and kind of like
pre-making it.
He's actually, in my opinion, doing what I'm saying about Star Wars, where he's making Alien into like a.
Actually, in that context, because if it's like his thing and he wants to just like finger the flute and do all the other weird shit that he does in these movies,
they don't
with
suck.
Michael Fassbender.
Like the ones that have been out, none of them is like not a Ridley Scott movie.
I guess I only watched Prometheus.
It doesn't have the greatest
Prometheus
screenplay of all time. It doesn't have the greatest screenplay of all time, but it's not like below.
wish-
It's not like not a
It's
7.
just like
I just wish it
nothing
wasn't
is
an Alien
new,
movie.
and
Yeah,
every
fair.
aspect of it is like lesser. It's like weird to be like, you are worse in every way than the thing you already have made.
But it wasn't not a 7. You know what I mean? It's not like.
I would not give it a 7.
But you're not necessarily saying it's definitely not a 7 if somebody argued with you. Like, it's not a terrible shit of a movie.
I think like what it has like a mercurial element that's always hard to pin down because, well, it's subjective or whatever, but like the other movies exist. It's like the new Predator movie that came out that I think a lot of people liked, and I was like,
I thought it was great.
Prey. It's like another movie where like
I thought you were talking about The Predator.
It does nothing. It does everything that it does is just worse than the other movies have done them.
But it's neat.
So like, I guess, is the acting fine? Sure. Like, is it a 7 on a numeric scale? But you're missing the larger point that like you just turned in the same, like a diminished version of something else great.
But should we destroy it when Predator's there? Should we go back and change Predator instead? No.
I mean, I think that's the weird thing, because we think about sticking on Predator.
No, you're right. I would much rather than make a new one. Like in this, the like lesser of two evils is to make a new
Prey is like not the movie Predator again. Not actually, right? It's a movie that has a similar structure to Predator, and it has it's set in the same universe ostensibly, right? Like we're explaining that sort of like Native American like trophy that was in the trophy room with the Predator in Predator 2 or whatever movie that was. I don't remember. I'm not a Predator expert, but like remaking a movie that's like a spiritual sequel to me that's like not as good is just like kind of an empty gesture. But on the other hand, like I don't think that the team that made Prey was like the same team that made Predator, right? You know, like they're just making another.
Sure. I guess like in that case, it's not the like Shane Black didn't rewrite it, or we're like,
Shane Black did write the previous movie.
Oh, you're right.
Even though he was in the first movie, but I don't think he wrote the first movie.
But the inherent problems with Predator and Alien and all that shit is, unlike Star Wars, where Star Wars is, here's the universe and we can do anything in it. These movies are, Predator is straight up just a dude shows up in the jungle and he's an alien and he hunts down guys. And that's the backstory.
Yeah.
An Alien is, we're on a spaceship and these aliens are killing us. That's the backstory. And since then, they've been trying to flesh out a backstory for both of those. And it's one of those things, very Han Solo movie. We didn't need a backstory.
It was better when it was like scary.
Yeah. And now it's like,
Also,
there's a lore, dude.
Well, also
okay.
like the first, I gotta watch Alien 3 again, just to, like,
That
give it
movie is
another
pretty
shot.
sick, man.
But like when they were like, first one was like straight up like horror thriller. Second one's like an action one. Like switching genres was a great way to do it.
Right.
So That's how you can keep it fresh.
The third one is like not as good as the first two, but it's definitely not a take. But Dave Fincher took
they haven't like a backstory, and it's all about like
Alien Resurrection was
cloning
was like a summer TNT. As a kid, when that was on, I watched that every time.
I watch that movie all the time still. Not like
I've weirdly probably seen that more than the other ones.
it's a great 7. It's a killer 7. Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
crumbs, dude.
Crumbs.
From Josh Groppel.
Josh Groban? The singer?
Josh Groban, yeah.
Oh my God.
As a child of the late 90s, early aughts, my first version of the OT was the special editions on VHS. With the prequels coming out and being really into those, I feel like the VFX updates in later editions like Ian McDermott and Tamara Morrison's voice for Boba Fett really connected the films, really the whole OT back to the prequels. As a young viewer, I think that made the entire Star Wars experience more coherent and exciting. As an adult fan, I really enjoyed watching the original cut. It's very of its time and carries a lot of the 80s visuals, color schemes that even some modern media tries to replicate now. The aesthetics trigger an odd nostalgia for a time before I was even around. I think both carry their own merits, but I think if I were showing someone Empire for the first time, I'd let them experience the original cut. This is a good, a lot of us just approach this from like the movies, like the original trilogies being the original ones. But I guess if you come in from the prequels and then you're going back being like, who the fuck's that Emperor guy? Looks like his eyes or mouths, and that's weird.
I don't think anybody deserves it though. I think like the movie got made and it's up to the guy who made the next one to make you understand that guy from the previous one is this guy. And Tamara Morrison, by the way, like they look the fucking exact same. We know those shits are related.
Also, like there's media where the characters are played by different actors and you just get it too.
But I think
so I
that's
guess like James Bond, there's been a couple of them.
Yeah.
And you just kind of get it.
But I feel like on the scale of changes, having the voices be different or putting Palpatine in there is on such the low end of offensive things. Like that doesn't bother me. It's when it gets like real changey that I'm like, whoa, what are we doing? But that stuff, if it makes a 13-year-old appreciate the movies more, then I don't care.
I guess I don't care that there's a version of it that is changed really. I think the thing that bothers me is that they're pretending like there's not a 7, like that this movie didn't come out in the 70s and the early 80s. Like it's so weird to me that they're like, this is the only version that you can watch of this, like literally like one of the most powerful pieces of culture that America has ever produced.
That's because it's part of in a machine now.
Right. But that's exactly, that's just all
one
I'm saying. It's
cog
just,
and a whole thing.
like Star Wars is such an exceptional example of this. I would be aghast and would like say absolutely there's no reason to do this in general for any movie. But in this case, it's like extra crazy because it's like as a kid, I liked the cohesion, but I'm like, there is no cohesion because those movies came out like 20 years apart from each other. That's not cohesion. They weren't cohesive. Like that's not the movies that came out. Like changing the voice isn't going to like suddenly make you believe that this movie is like from the same era as that movie. Like the only reason that
I think that's fun though.
Well, the only reason the voice change works is because the movie also has been completely denoised and degrained and like cleaned up and slicked up. And you're wondering why this guy suddenly changed because it looks like more equatable. But if the movie was clearly from the 70s, you would be like, the obvious reason why these people are different is because time has passed and this is a new movie and this is an old movie.
Yeah.
And I can just see that from looking, though maybe I'm being ignorant and that young people just don't have the cultural literacy
I don't think that's it. I
to
think
recognize when movies are from.
I think it's just fun to see a connective tissue in things, which is why everyone got so hyped about the Avengers stuff because everything was connected and became. There are downsides to it as we quickly
But
saw.
it was connected.
That's I'm like, it's connected and it's like the same fucking characters. It's like the same world. It's
But
the
it
same
was.
story.
It was the same like producer. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Like
but I'm just saying, like, oh, that's Boba Fett, and there's I get it. I understand where you're coming from. I'm just saying I also understand where someone who's younger, who's
get
like,
it. Yeah.
I started with 1, 2, 3. I had a different experience than you, and so it's nice to see 4, 5, 6 have some of the connective tissue back to what I started with.
like I say,
I am surprised that they haven't redone Iron Man with like removing Terrence Howard or something.
Yeah.
Like I'm like
you're legit
surprised they haven't paid him like $5 million to like let Don Cheadle.
Legit, I think you're like 100% right on that that's something that they would do. And also, but also like I say, I don't care that the other version exists, right? It's just wild to me that like the punk fan made one was like the one where they didn't have to do anything. Like if they wanted to make a real version of it, they could just put it out right now and make a fuckload of money and it wouldn't matter and it would hurt no one. And the fact that they're choosing to be like, what are you talking about? This is Star Wars. This is the one from the 70s right here. It came out in 1977. Star Wars 1977. This is it. It just is crazy to me that they're... Well, from the point of view of just like art in general, it's crazy. But I understand as like a fan of like a story and characters why you would do that. I'm not like
there's like an audaciousness to some of what like having Boba Fett sound like Boba Fett is fine. Sticking Hayden Christensen at the end of Return of the Jedi, that I think is the line for me where I'm like, you've gone too far now.
That's an arbitrary line.
Also, when the Empire gets destroyed and he just like shows a bunch of other planets, you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
It makes sense. It makes sense. Like in the narrative of the movie, even why it's there, it's just wild because he's like, and this. To me, the choice is as obvious as like, do you want to read the Bible or do you want to read the hip hop Bible? It's like, well, what's so good about the hip hop Bible? Well, it uses modern phrases so that you can feel like it's something from right now.
So you can jive with it a little better.
And it's like very obvious to me that the Bible that I want to read if I'm trying to read the Bible is the regular Bible, but like the hip hop Bible, it feels like everybody's buying the hip hop Bible here. I don't know. That's how it feels to me, but I'm not trying to judge anybody for the hip hop Bible. If you've got the hip hop Bible and you got the real Bible.
Yeah. I mean, most of the people here want the original Bible in this case, but
not real. I don't think like from what I'm reading here.
Even Josh was like, if I'm going to show people things, I'm going to show them the original ones. I'm not like, but he liked that when he went back to see them, it had a thing. It's like,
I'm just saying like, it feels like
I can admire a recut trench run, but that doesn't mean I necessarily think
how much of the hip hop Bible could you get through, to be honest? Like, could you read the whole hip hop Bible?
Dude, I couldn't even get through the kids' Bible.
As someone who actually read the Bible, no, I'd read the hip hop Bible any day. The Bible's boring as shit, dude.
I just wouldn't read the Bible.
If you
Bible's not for me.
If you had to,
although Revelation slaps, I don't care what anyone says. That shit's awesome.
We're changing the name of this.
It's got dragons. It's got whores. It's got fights.
Instead of Swak Box, this is the BBC.
I just listened to a Illuminati podcast.
Great show.
Episode from last year.
Great show.
Where you and Mathis are going off about how, like,
it's
just
awesome.
Yesterday, when I was making my bed, I like listened to you. So hearing you say it again is like weird.
I love it. I unabashedly, the rest of it, boring. Some good stories in there.
Yeah, look, I'm not trying to hate. I'm just trying to say.
Let's read one more of these and then a couple more Q&As. From Jason Livingston, you have my written permission to read. I was 11 when Empire was released, and as a young boy, I was fascinated by the tech, the ships, the blasters, you name it. I loved it all. So when it came to the new versions, I loved the new Death Star trench run. I loved seeing more of Cloud City. I liked all the extras. So when we ask, did we need to add a dewback in the scene? No, we probably didn't. It was in George's mind when he imagined the scene, but it just couldn't happen in 1977. I like all the extra ads over the years. Special effects don't add to the story much. They never will. George Lucas has a quote in the Star Wars archives 1999 to 2005 that I hope you guys read and remind everybody of. Oh, this is I make all my movies for myself. People will say, when you release it, it belongs to the public. No, it's mine. I'm leasing it to you. $10 at a time. It still belongs to me.
Here's the thing.
Which is a perfect adult childhood reaction.
I do agree.
To him, but I also don't disagree.
I do
some
agree.
Of the sentiment.
I just think that you also have to understand that people are going to think whatever they want.
Yeah, I'm cool.
Exactly.
I'm cool with that now. There are times I haven't been certain changes I don't like. Perhaps with age, I can watch a movie and not think this looks fake. But thank the maker, George has entertained me as much as he has entertained me much more than disappointed for sure.
Yeah.
You know, given that how big Star Wars is for my life,
he clearly won. George Lucas won.
Is he allowed to do it?
Except, let's not forget, he's really just responsible for like 15% of all the Star Wars that you love.
In a way,
without him like birthing it into the world, it's fine. But like, if we took this as an analogy, if he was like an absentee father that like abandoned you when you were 4 and the rest of your life,
absentee father.
I'm trying to like pull out of this, like, because don't get lost on that. I want you to hear the point. You think that he's the guy that did it all because he tells you he did it all, but we factually know that if it was just him, we would not be here. There'd be no podcast. There'd be no other one. He had like the greatest minds in cinema at the time, inventing new technology and helping him. And then during his prime, he had the wherewithal to step the fuck aside and just let them go and do their thing.
He didn't
and
step
that's like
aside.
the greatest part. And then he got like old and then was like, no, it's all me. It was all for kids. It's my shit. I'm going to change it.
I think you're mad at him. I'm
not mad. This is like,
you
I would
sound
not have
mad.
Star Wars.
I'm just saying.
I have complex feelings about it. I've said as much throughout.
I just want to say I think the characterization of him stepping aside is inaccurate. I think that this man was like the Stan Lee of Star Wars the entire time that he owned it. And he made a lot of decisions, both big and small edicts, editorial edicts. He said yes and no to every project. He had approval on every single thing. It was his universe. It was his baby. In broad strokes, he was making the decisions the whole time. It's just that, it does take a person to decide who's going to do something and what they're allowed to do with it. And I do think that nobody should be able to, like, is George Lucas allowed to remake his Star Wars movies if he wants? I don't think I even have the authority to decide whether he's allowed.
Legally, whoever owns the rights?
No, I just mean,
Because-
I think from a like human level, I don't have the authority to say what he can do with something that he like wrote or made or owns. But like, I do think I do judge him for eliminating the history.
From an artistic standpoint,
I judge him.
Yeah.
I judge him. That's all I can say is like, I have no moral problem with what he's doing other than that he is erasing the old. I think that's fucking weird.
It's the same thing as if like a dude made a marble statue and then every few years went back and chipped away at it to make it better. It's like, dude, stop that. It was fine. Cut it out.
Yeah. Like it's just like,
leave the penises on.
just
guys.
take a picture of it.
The
before
statues are great. Don't be jealous.
Before you fuck it up, just take a picture real quick so we can remember the original. Like, that's all I want. I'm not mad at the changes, like, in terms of like what they do or don't do for the movie. It's just no longer an authentic experience in the way that it once was. That's it. That's all. It's weird to be like, I'm watching a movie from 1977 and then you watch Star Wars.
I will say,
It shouldn't say that. It should say like Star Wars 2014 on it.
I'm at times frustrated with him. At times I have complex feelings, but you learn more from failures than you do successes. And I think like how much I've learned from like the way Star Wars has been run over the years and in my like lifetime has been so informative about human nature, about industry, about film and storytelling that like even I have probably learned a lot more lessons from Star Wars from not loving the prequels or sequels than if it was just 10s across the board. So that's just a thought. I don't know what to do
So
with
in
that.
the end, George Lucas did get to you. He taught you a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's wild. But do we want to move back to
We're all the boy named Sue.
do we want to move
Do you
back
understand
to
that reference? You understand the reference?
Do you want to move back to Q&A?
Yeah. Let's see where we are. Okay. Hi, Snack Pack crew.
Hey.
I'm Roman Amaranth. Really enjoy the pod and can't wait for you guys to get to my favorite old canon piece of all time, which is Heir to the Empire. I was wondering
I hear that's a good one.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you guys felt about how Star Wars adapts itself nowadays. Now that you've seen many examples of how it was done back in the old canon era, do you guys believe both eras of Star Wars could learn from each other when it comes to incestuous adaptations? Did one of them definitely do it correctly and others not so much? Do these kinds of adaptations even have any value to them, or should the franchise just be trying new stuff all the time? An example of each way of doing this would be the different versions of episode 4 you guys read in novel and comic form for the old canon era, and for the new canon, something like the novel Ahsoka by E.K. Johnson being partially adapted to TV with Clone Wars Season 7 and then continued in that episode of the Tales of the Jedi show. What is Tales of the Jedi?
I mean,
It's a show on
the
Disney
new,
Plus.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the new Disney Plus thing.
Thank you for your great conversations, and don't forget to keep your friends close and your droids closer.
Honestly, those bits at the end there, the Ahsoka stuff, and I think that's some of the best Star Wars new things they've done where they've taken things from books and then made them into either an animated show. Like the new Clone Wars stuff they made, that last season of content, that was awesome. That was cool as shit. So,
but are they talking about adapting from one medium to another?
Just, the incestuous nature of adapting between the two.
Yeah, I think, like, could they learn from each other? The old canon can't learn because it's done, but, like, there are certain aspects of the new canon stuff that probably is better than the old canon. The old canon and the new canon, it's such, like, a grab bag of, like, especially where we are now, it's still Wild West, but it's, like, congealing, and it's going to, like, we're not even in the prime yet of the expanding universe stuff, so it's hard to like really tell. Like we'll be able to answer this question in like 2 or 3 years a lot better. But there is a lot that the new stuff can learn from it. I haven't seen Tales of the Jedi, but like I used to want everything that I loved to be done in the new canon. I wanted Kyle Katarn, and then it's like, oh, they're not the same person. It's like how you write it. It's the stories you tell. So like seeing, I fucking love Vance Cobb in the book. And I
Cobb
casting,
Vance.
What's his face from fucking Justified?
Oliphant.
Yeah. He's like, if you told me he'd play, I'd be like, perfect.
Right.
But then seeing him in Mandalorian, I'm like, oh, it's not him. That's not the same character. Like, so just pulling stuff, there are great, I would take, rather than characters, take interesting character choices, or like what Luke is wrestling with in Air is such a natural place for him to go after Jedi. Like maybe take that and go in your direction with that more than specifically adapting.
Are we talking about adapting old canon to new canon?
No. We're talking. The idea
incestuous
is
adaptation. I think they're talking about like taking stuff from before and like repurposing it in the new canon.
I think
just like, for example, the going back to when we talked about A New Hope and how they had a book and they had a movie, and the book and movie were kind of the same, but kind of not the same.
Yeah.
And if you take that into today with the things that we have and how there's, you could have a TV show that partially adapts Ahsoka, but also Ahsoka, which is his own thing. And, what is good from both of those and what's bad from both of those. And if they could learn from each other.
I think the big difference, at least from where we're at right now in the show, is that those adaptations were happening pretty much just like unchecked. Like the production process was wherever it was. Nobody was thinking about it that much. And that's why like the book version has like a bunch of deleted scenes in it that aren't in the movie version, because they started making them at the same time, and there was no such thing as like an expensive movie secret that could ruin a movie, especially a movie that hadn't come out yet that nobody knows about and all that shit. And like, I feel like in each case we're adapting a screenplay to a book. So far, we're about to see a book adapted to a comic in what are we talking about? In
comic strips or the?
Yeah, it's going to be Han Solo at Star's End in comic form, and we already saw. Yeah, and we saw
this man just lit up.
Yeah, and we
lit
saw
up.
and we saw New Hope
box, and I love those guys.
And we saw New Hope retold in the comics. And in both cases, it was the same thing again, where we're just taking like the comic version is just literally some guy watched the movie 5 times and made a comic book out of it. And he didn't even have any of the answers. And so he just swung for the fences with some stuff.
Had some fun with the colors.
Got cavalier with the colors because of the comic book process. Everything now is like calculated to make money. And the fact that a plot got adapted from a book to a TV show like that, I believe probably just had to do with the fact that they didn't have to write an entirely new story more than anything. And that like, like Ahsoka is like a hit character. That was maybe one of the better reviewed books. And so
honestly, I think in that case it was because Clone Wars came out and at the end of that series, Ahsoka just walks away and there is no more Ahsoka. So they wrote that book because there was no more show. And they're like, oh, we're making a show. Let's just make that book because I think you're kind of right that it exists and that's what they wanted to do. And it was already,
is that the episode that we recorded, but like lost the,
it's possible.
Maybe?
Like where we loved the book and then the episode got blown up.
It like didn't actually ever come out because the recording fucked up or something.
Yeah, I think so. And
it's a 3-hour episode. Oh man.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like in the case of Ahsoka, I believe they definitely already had a plan for Ahsoka in a larger sense.
Sure.
Like, I think we were already at the point in Star Wars lore where we're starting to like think about the release schedule as like a media opportunity to like, you know, have all these pieces, and there's like a Bible with like where everybody's at and what they're doing. And maybe certain parts are more fleshed out than others, but like, it really feels like they're not. The reason that that book and that episode are the same is because somewhere there's a internal Wikipedia that says what happens to Ahsoka, because it has to fit with like 15 other things that happen so that everybody's in the right place at the right time. And, you know, there's not going to be those same kind of mistakes and inconsistencies.
I mean, we'll see. I'm still trying to figure out what they're doing with Thrawn in the new canon.
Well, sure, but like
He's back in the galaxy, and it's like,
he's probably going to be accurate to his like weird Timothy Zahn new books.
understood.
Yeah.
But where was he during all of the new movies?
Where were the X-Men in all of the Avengers?
Yeah, dude.
I don't know.
I think
we'll
like
find out.
like with like comic book movies, or in this too, it's like, tell a good story. If that means you took a story that you've already told and reworked it to tell this again, great. Like, or if you have an entirely new story, that's dope. Do it. Just do what is like best and honest for the character, and know that if you adapt something that was popular before, that can backfire on you if you don't do it right. So like, do it right, or you'll piss people off because it was a lesser version.
Maybe more diversity in the new canon is good. You know, like I was trying to think of things that like I would
love more aliens, more just aliens, because there's so many humans in the galaxy.
Like, yeah, like what I'm talking about is like
More
I feel like in the old canon versus the new canon, the one thing that's very different is that there's like a lot just more voices being given Star Wars jobs, and like we're hearing from like maybe a black person will write the voice of a black person in Star Wars, stuff like that. Like that didn't happen in the old canon, but that's not really like about adapting. It's just kind of about like, you know, to speak to the question of like, what can the canons learn from each other? I feel like there's not a lot that I want from the new canon to be true of the old canon, except that I feel like maybe there could have been more diverse voices. Like really. Other than that, I feel like I love a creatively more free, sort of like open-ended, sort of like less intentioned version of the narrative, more than like a giant conglomerate version where books are being made up that you would never write a story about to fit some weird narrative that you made like in phases over years as like a marketing strategy.
They both have their downsides. I mean, the old canon, we can look back lovingly on it, but there's some of those books. Oof, they're rough.
I mean,
they're
look,
rough.
a shitty book is a shitty book, but
right?
Like if we're talking about like how things were done, I don't.
Yeah. I mean, the newer version of everything must be a part of this machine that we're creating. It takes the fun out of what it is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably a good place. Right, we're going for a couple hours. Probably good.
Yeah. I mean, you want to do one more? Call it a day.
Okay, let's do one more.
Rapid fire.
I don't want to be like, well, we're done. You know, let's just.
Well, I want to skip.
Now they know it's the last one, so they can gird.
Yeah. Is there anything there like out of the three of you, who would sleep with a Wookiee?
Yeah.
Is there anything fun?
Trick question, all of us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's right.
I would.
Joel says, hey gang, big fan of the show. Star Wars is a history of making vague references to greater historical events that tickle the imagination, giving a perceived vastness to this galaxy far, far away. The most popular, naturally, being Obi-Wan's reference to the Clone Wars in the very first film. So my question is, if you were writing a Star Wars story and had the chance to include the title of some historical Star Wars event, what would it be? For a personal example, although the concept of Jedi Crusaders has been touched upon already in the Last Jedi Visual Dictionary, making a far more explicit reference to a crusade taking place in the distant past, I feel would add a dynamic to Jedi history that I would find appealing. Once again, this show brings me an incredible amount of joy that I cannot put into words, and look forward to the adventures that await us in the future. Wish you all the best, Joel.
The best version of that, this isn't what we would do, but the best version they're currently doing in modern Star Wars is every time they're like, yo, there's like a whole side of the galaxy we just do not go to.
Yeah.
And they don't talk about it. They're just like, you go there and it's the worst place ever. And that's the kind of fun I want in all of Star Wars. Like, literally, the Empire only controls half the galaxy.
It's like the Delta Quadrant of Star Wars.
Yeah, there's this whole area that is just the worst. And I think that's super fun to include stuff like that, where they hopefully will never explain why it's the worst. It just is. Don't go there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, first of all, I'm going to just say the Chromium Crisis is my answer.
I love it.
I'm just going to say the Chromium Crisis. And the reason that I'm going to say that is because it sounds cool and you can pretty much imagine something that could be the Chromium Crisis.
I like that.
And I just want to qualify it by saying, like, if you go back to like the first season of Doctor Who, like from the 60s, and you see who the Doctor is, he's like an old man from space and he has a girl with him, and they don't say where his homeworld is, and they don't say why he's there or why he has a time machine or what's going on with him for like 3 fucking years. You know what I mean? And that show was a huge success because of how much of an enigma this weird old man was and how weird and exciting that made the show feel. So whatever I say, the Chromium Crisis or whatever it's going to be, like, the only thing I care about, and Jesse touched on this too, is that it's never explained or revisited ever again.
I see your Chromium Crisis. I raise you the Galactic Exodus.
That's pretty great.
Where the first time humans arrived in this galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
From where? Who knows?
Who knows?
And what time? Who knows? But and then they just took that shit over.
Yeah.
It's a very fun little story.
They started fucking and they haven't stopped. I would do something like, I can't like think of the exact words, but it would be like some cosmic or galactic like disappearing where like an entire star lane like
it's gone,
collapsed,
yeah.
Or like there are like planets, there were people, and it's like just gone from space, and we don't, not just like it blew up or something, but it's like, we kind of like fold or play funny with space for hyperspace, but we don't know what happened here.
Yeah.
Like a lost planet of Roanoke kind of vibe.
But it's like less than like, oh, where did it go? We lost the charts. It's like, no, we can look at where it was and
it's gone.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
And there's some level of like evidence that it's not just like, it baffles the mind what happened to it.
What do you call it?
Like the Great Darkening.
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh,
We're in there.
I like it.
The Great Dark. How about Yoda's Lost Weekend?
At Yoda's.
Yoda's.
Has to keep a dead Jedi out.
Weekend, it's the guy it's like the original Yoda puppet that doesn't look like him. It's like that guy's like, oh no, alive he is.
Yoda's Warm Summer.
Oh my God.
He just has shades on Kaiamundi. He's like,
but yeah, that's a great question. That is the stuff that just, it perfectly tickles the mind. Mm-hmm. And the Clone Wars did a good job. Even up until now, you only get a like Dark Souls items worth of information about it in every like 3 or 4 pieces of media. They're like, this is a race that did this thing in the Clone Wars. Nope, shut up. We're not talking about it anymore. We're closed for the day.
We don't need answers to every question. And honestly, it goes right back to what we're talking about old canon versus new canon. Like, the reason we make up details is to get your imagination going, not because we want to explain why something we already know about happened.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any fucking sense. And, Star Wars lore, man, it goes past you. You know what I mean? It whips past you quickly, fast, like almost like you're like in a race, like on a track, like the Boon to Eve Classic. And sometimes it's so crazy out there on the road that you sometimes feel like you don't have enough hands.
Uh-oh, look out there. He's going to need at least 3 more hands. You don't
have enough hands to grab all the controls and keep yourself straight.
Right.
But Gasgano does, because he has 4, and that's why this is his pod
He
chat.
can always lend you a hand.
Yeah.
He's a good friend.
Unless there's 5 of you.
Yeah, unless there's 5 of you, in which case you're gonna die. Like fucking what's his name, who goes wow, and then like crashes into a rock and explodes.
He died as he lived.
That dude, I wish I could have pulled his name. I know it's in there somewhere, but wow, he went out.
Oh,
He went out like Hubert, dude. I don't know what happened.
We're gonna be fucking dick deep in pod racing eventually.
Oh man,
we're gonna be like the movies, the games.
There's a lot more than you think out there.
Maybe at that point it'll be fun to do. We'll just do like a spec episode of the podcast. It'll be entirely in character
We're just as that two-headed guy.
Let's just do it. We'll pay for who knows where we'll be by
Do you
then.
think we can find a copy of the actual arcade podcast racer game? Like go
Easily.
somewhere,
Star Wars podcast racer.
Go to the racer and film a whole thing there.
I'm
in the racer. Let's go.
I would
That'd be
love
amazing.
that. I remember that game. I used to
I
get
played it all
so
the
hot.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think we can get Greg Proops to just like come riff on us?
What's his
I would
cameo
spend
rate?
all the money to make that happen.
Dog, Greg, where are you at, man? Let us know. Come on down to Gasgano's pod chat. We'll be out here. Patreon.com/SWOCBC.
Cost you a Camptano to come to Gastano.
His name is Gasgano.
Experience.
Gasgano always wins. Here's what I'm going to say. Go to patreon.com/SWOCBC. You can become a free member. You can answer the Q&As. We'll read your questions on the air if we get to them. If you want to join up for real and support us, we would love that very much. We're back in a big way now. We're going to be coming out with content more regularly. There's a schedule on the Patreon right now for like the next 6 to 8 episodes with dates. And so you can read and get ready and come be real and stuff. So come sign up. There's all kinds of fun surprises on there already. I want to mention Inside the Insider is there every time. Even with this episode, every time we put out an episode, there's an Inside the Insider ready to go at any time for it. So please go get those. Come listen to this. Come listen to the watch-alongs and come see what other fun, participate in the discussion questions. There's all kinds of stuff there that our dark master of the web has cooking for you guys. And, I love you guys. And I'll see you guys later.
Also, maybe leave a suggestion for a better, more Star Wars name than Dark Master of the Web.
No, that's pretty good.
Like it would be Dark Master of the HoloNet. First of all, if we want to actually be in canon, casual.
All right. Whoa.
For example,
holy shit. What are you on right now? A computer or a fucking made up Star Wars device?
No, dude, that's the HoloNet. He's the Holo Master.
Oh, he's
Holo Master. What's Chewbacca, like the guy that makes the holos for Wookiee adults to watch?
Wookiee porn maker is what he is.
I'll be that guy.
Davis is the Wookiee porn maker at SWO.
I say only the finest. I don't even know what accent that was.
I said only the finest Wookiee porn.
I don't do accents.
Craziest part is I'm Trandoshan, and if you know anything about my history of my people, you know that's extremely fucked up. Patreon.com/SWOCBC. There is free Wookiee porn there if you sign up now.
That's not true.
That's not even true. But what there is a bunch of stuff to read. Go there. Go listen to the show.
Reading is like Wookiee porn.
You're now becoming a little bit like how I think Dengar sounds.
My name is Michael Dengar Davis, a Trandoshan, no relation, who makes porn for fucking big, horny, smelly Wookiees in heat. I love you. See you later. Keep your friends close and put a headset on your grandfather so he can grame in his pants.